themselves on the freeways by 2020 and city streets a few years later. And Uber is launching a service to get people
Perry
to their
Nickerson
regular
ran a
non-emergency
4.32.
medical appointments.
Did you see
a
what
healthcare provider
Lopez
could use
tweeted?
Uber
That
Health to book a
the
ride
three
for the
fastest
patient,
guys
and the
at the combine
provider,
were all
not
from
the
Louisiana.
patient, would get the bill.
But I
Consumer
think
and Business News.
Denzel
Phil
Ward
McConnell,
also ran a
NBC
4.32,
News
so
Radio.
now that's not true.
And we're on, by the way,
15 seconds.
Idiopathic pulmonary
I was
fibrosis,
saying, I just say
or
we're on.
IPF, is a rare lung disease with symptoms that include breathlessness during mild physical activity.
We're on. I wanted to get one more curse word.
Shut up,
in.
dude.
Come on.
Stop it.
Man!
Everybody,
Now, visit breathlessipf.com.
we're
Simmer down, Beavis.
Don't talk so loud.
I don't really understand what people talk. I'm Fred. Totally relax.
Are you hungover, Jeffrey?
My head hurts.
He looks it.
My head feels
looks
like
like
a
hell.
soggy pumpkin.
Soggy. A soggy torpedo.
Dunc and Holder on a Monday, March 5th. Larry Holder, Jeff Dunc, and Clyde Verdun here with you in our NOLA.com Times-Picayune studios. Dave DeCurbier back in iHeart Central. And, boy, are the Pelicans ever going to stop winning? I'm convinced. They will never lose a game the rest of the year. Not losing a game the rest of the year. They're
I think
going
they might
undefeated.
lose Tuesday night.
Are you sure?
I think so.
I'm not sure. They beat good teams. They beat bad teams. They beat teams in between now. 8 in a row after throttling the Dallas Mavericks on Sunday. And don't look now, but feel free to look now. The standings, the Pelicans, aghast. What? They are 4th seed? They would host a playoff series? Wow. I don't think any of us ever saw that coming. No one on planet Earth.
I said the season was over when Boogie Cousins got hurt. So what do I know?
You're not the only one. I promise you. I'm sure there were plenty of people who didn't, who were in your boat, and not too many people saying, I think this team's going to rebound and, be 10 games above 500 at some point.
A lot of people, the narrative now I'm hearing around the city is they're better without DeMarcus Cousins. Have y'all heard that?
Heard last night on the post-game radio show.
Really?
Yeah, no, someone called in and basically, with all intents and purposes, he was saying, and he had to say afterwards because Dave Allison, who works, who's a radio person for the Pelicans, was like, no one's out here saying that the Pelicans are that much better or just doesn't need Boogie Cousins. And this guy came back and said, oh, no, I'm saying 100% that this team is better without DeMarcus Cousins, and we should look at whatever kind of possibilities next year without him being on the team. And it was like, oh, no, he was being serious.
Okay. I think at some point, if they keep winning and doing what they've been doing, obviously they're not going to win every game. But if they keep winning consistently, I think it's something you have to at least explore.
Right.
If you're the Pelicans.
They're definitely different without him. And the one thing that stands out is they're playing with much greater pace because that's not DeMarcus Cousins' strength. I know he lost a lot of weight in the offseason to try to be more of an up-and-down-the-court player, but that's just not him. He's a big dude, and he kind of plods. He likes to hang back sometimes and argue with the officials. But if you look at the scores, just look at their scores. They're in the 120s every night. Every night. I think they've scored over 120, I believe, at least 6 straight games, maybe 7. And one time, now one was a double overtime game where they went to 138 or something, but otherwise they've got to be leading the league in scoring the last couple weeks, even more so than Golden State. And that shows that Alvin Gentry has adjusted to a new game plan. They're obviously getting up down the court more, taking advantage of their small lineup.
Very up-tempo.
Yes. And it's successful. It's working.
And we were wondering how Alvin Gentry and Dell Demps would handle this transition because even though the embedded excuse of, oh no, Boogie Cousins is lost for the year, you get a pass because your jobs are potentially on the line, you can't say enough good things about the job they've done since Boogie's left. We know that rough stretch early, that was a given. You figured that was going to happen. Now all these pieces are coming together, and even the Alvin Gentry detractors that have been out there, and we've heard them for how many years, plural? I'd say years, plural.
Yes.
That's fair.
I think you can't, if you keep bagging on him or saying he's not doing a good job, you're not paying attention right now. He's doing a great job.
There's no doubt they've adjusted, and they're playing with great confidence. They just look like a different team. They look like they really believe in what they're doing, and everybody is playing their role. And I think there is some merit to that, in that maybe by sheer necessity, everybody is kind of built around Anthony Davis. There's a clear alpha male on this team. That's Anthony Davis. But to be honest with you, they're never going to let DeMarcus Cousins walk, I don't think. I mean,
No.
strictly because of Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis wants DeMarcus Cousins here. He likes DeMarcus Cousins. And if you really know AD is not necessarily an alpha. He is an incredible player. He's clearly their best player, but his personality is more like the Robin, if that makes any sense. And I think he loves having Cousins here to be do the dirty work and be the Batman.
Just a heads up, Dallas, the Pelicans throttled them. 126-109. The game wasn't even close. Usually in this streak, you see the Pelicans let teams hang around or they have to storm back. They won in a different fashion yesterday. They led throughout most of the game, and it really wasn't close, and they really stepped on the throat of a bad team. Look, the Mavericks are down in the dumps just like the Suns, essentially. They're jostling for inferiority. They're jostling for inferiority, trying to be the number one pick in the NBA draft. And
it's bad when you know Adam Silver has to come out and say, seriously, if you are making it look this obvious to tank, there will be consequences.
And the Pelicans didn't let a team hang around, and I think that's pretty clutch. Look, if you want to get involved in the show, 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. We'll talk more Pelicans throughout the show. Around 10:30, we're going to have our own Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist, get the latest from him. Big win by LSU against Mississippi State. I think that solidifies their chances of getting in the NIT, so that's a
Yes.
good win. Also, if you missed it this weekend, Ron had a wonderful story about Bonneville alum Joe Estee, and we're going to let Ron tell the story. If you haven't seen it, go check it out on NOLA.com, and it ran A1 in the print edition of the Times-Picayune on Sunday. Wonderful story. Joe Estee's preparing for the Combine, and he's also fathering young boys, and they're not his. He just had to take them in while he was in college at UT Martin, University of Tennessee Martin, and wonderful story. We'll talk with Ron Higgins about that. The Saints making moves. We alluded to the Saints possibly adding a safety, and they did so. 3-year deal for Kurt Coleman. We'll give our perspective on that. Jeff has his first Saints mock draft up, and we've got a Twitter poll already in the works, already up at Duncan Holder on Twitter, and of course I retweeted it already. Jeff has as well. And it's about Jeff's column on Sunday that ran the front of the sports section. We debated this topic already, and huge amount of participation as far as people wanting to get their voice in. Who's going to be the next voice of the New Orleans Saints? Lots of reaction from in NOLA.com's comment section. We've talked about it a lot already here on the show. So interesting, so much to talk about here on today's show. And oh, by the way, Dante Jackson and Perry Nickerson ran 2 of the fastest times at the Combine. We knew Dante Jackson would run well. I think Perry Nickerson, I keep saying this, I think he's going to be a steal for someone in the NFL.
And I think DJ Chark also had one of the faster times. So 3 Louisiana kids, 3 high school products from Louisiana, 3 college products from Louisiana showing well. And, we want to talk about all that. And did we get the score of the Nicholls State Southeastern Louisiana game?
Oh, let me unearth that. Clyde, can you find that for me?
I didn't see that score. Clyde,
No,
did you get the
usually
score?
you unearth a lot of things. Why can't you unearth that?
Here's also what I'm unearthing. Do we have a caller on the line?
West Bank Rick?
Oh, you don't say.
Conveniently, Clyde.
Conveniently, not
Channel
only
the
is it
phone caller.
West Bank Rick. West Bank, what up, dog?
Clyde's calling. What's up, Rick? Thanks for calling the show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
I just wanted to talk about my Pelicans on how they're thriving from the beginning of the season to right now.
Go for it.
You know, where we was just sitting here talking about how they gave up 14 games where they were leading by double-digit points, where we couldn't get the team to play defense at the right time, where we were doing turnovers 15-plus a game. so much has changed from now to then. We also talked about how Drew Holiday, we shouldn't have gave him this big contract. And he's been averaging 20-plus points almost every game since he got that contract. We got the player of the month, which is kind of shocking when you got Houston and the guard over there winning 14 games 2 times and was disrupted by us. So I think the team has really thrived. We done picked up players like Emeka Okafor, Walter Lemon. Got to give props to Demps and the coach, even though a lot of people still don't gravitate to his liking. But I just want to say, do it big.
There you go. All right, West Bank Rick, appreciate the phone call. Yeah, he's like a lot of us. We were all detractors. How could you not be? And we started getting on board once they started winning a bunch of games, and then all of a sudden Boogie goes down, and we think it's over, all done. And it's remarkable what they've been able to do. They've proved me wrong. They've proved Jeff wrong. They've proved Clyde wrong. They've proved everyone wrong. And now, look, they've been rolling 8 in a row, and they've had to win 8 in a row. Now they're feeling pretty secure. What are they? They have a 2.5 game lead on the 9th seed, which in this jumbled mess seems pretty significant, if you ask me.
Yeah, no, they have the second longest winning streak, I believe, in the NBA behind the Rockets. And as you said earlier, I mean, they're number 4 seed right now. Now, realize they've got to keep winning because everyone, it seems like in the West, is keeping pace. Pretty wide. The team that I think has fallen off are the Spurs.
Them in Minnesota.
Yes.
Obviously, there was a big kerfluffle over the weekend with over the weekend with them and the Jazz because without Jimmy Butler, they've been struggling to find an identity. And when you look at these standings now, obviously you're talking about Houston, Golden State, Portland, the Pelicans, and then Minnesota, and as you said, Jeff, San Antonio. It's amazing how the teams that were fighting for 6, 7, and 8, and even 9 in some cases, is now looking at 3, 4, 5, and in some cases 5 and 6 now.
Yeah, look, the T-Wolves have lost their last 2, so have the Spurs in this last 10-game stretch. Pelicans are 8-2. The Portland Trailblazers are 8-2. Golden State's 8-2. Houston is 10-0. They've won 15 in a row. But the T-Wolves are 4-6 in their last 10, and the Spurs are 2-8 in their last 10. Nothing was you couldn't take anything for granted, and the Spurs are falling off and the Pelicans are moving up. But like both of you have said, you've got to keep winning. But yet, look, 19-14 now on the road. They have one of the best road records in the NBA. Their home record, solid, 17-12. You'd want it to be better, but some of those games where they lost and some of the games that they're winning now, they're certainly a different team. You can't deny it.
in the West, there's so many injury situations right now. You mentioned Jimmy Butler. Obviously, Kawhi Leonard being out has hurt the Spurs and DeMarcus Cousins. So some big-name players not on the floor right now, and especially in San Antonio and Minnesota, they rely so much on those 2 players. They don't really have any answers right now. San Antonio doesn't have a lot of scoring options other than LaMarcus Aldridge, and he went out in that Pelicans game. So teams trying to do the best with this adversity, but the Rockets just continue to win, and I'm really interested to see if this is their year. I don't know if it's going to translate once they get to the playoffs, but this offensive juggernaut, I mean, they're setting every NBA record for scoring. They're going to be a force, there's no doubt.
Why couldn't the Pelicans just retain all of their former players and they'd be a super team now? I mean, with let's see, Chris Paul and Trevor Ariza and Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon. Oh, by the way, they all used to be Hornets/Pelicans players.
They did.
What do you know?
They did.
They go somewhere else. It's like the Malcolm Jenkins, Darren Sproles disaster. They leave and they become great.
Oh, they won a Super Bowl together.
Exactly.
Although that does bring up a good point, again, to what you brought up on the very first, on the outset, Larry. That's, I think, why they'll keep DeMarcus Cousins, because this is such a star-driven league, and the more star power you can get and the more star power you can acquire, you can find ways to be able to make that work. I just think that it may need a little bit more time than what we saw. I mean, because we pretty much saw a calendar year for it, but you need star power, man. And the more they play together and the more other big pieces you can acquire, because you can have 2 all-stars there, that may actually be really, really good for you being able to bring other people to the city and then making a super team of your own if possible.
Well, I'm eager to see if people come out on Friday night. They're back home Friday night.
2 games on the road?
Yes. And they say they win. They go on this, they keep winning. I would expect there to be a big crowd.
I would expect it too. So 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's take a break right here on the show. In about 10 minutes, we'll talk with our colleague Ron Higgins about LSU and about his wonderful feature he did over the weekend on Bonneville alum football player Joe Estee. Great story. We'll talk with him about that. And we'll talk Saints. We'll talk college basketball. The conference tournaments are coming up. College baseball. LSU's rebounding. Tulane able to take 1 out of 3 from Cal State Fullerton. So we'll talk about all that and more coming up next here. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Live and local. Weekday afternoons, 2 to 4. Chris Gordy.
We're talking with Marshawn Lattimore here of your New Orleans Saints. People are still heartbroken.
How's the poll doing?
It was a tough loss, and we got to get over it eventually.
I see somebody chimed in about Clyde.
It's a little bittersweet.
Yeah, it is. But, I feel like we're going to be back.
Clyde should do the game.
Clyde should do the game.
Or Donald Trump.
Hey, we got another caller, Bill in Slidell. Okay. Bill Slidell.
Okay. I can't
I think Clyde should do the game. It's a real Donald Trump. Seriously.
On Sports 1280. New Orleans.
Oh,
this week
that's
on Big Easy
wonderful.
Deals, get a family 4-pack to the Audubon Zoo for just $38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the Watoto Law, the playful monkeys, or the mysterious white alligators. Go to FoxSportsAM1280.com. Keyword deal.
Wow, Mike
You're in
Koss
luck all this month during
is
Aaron's
leading the
Lucky
polls
Days.
so far.
Get started leasing to own furniture.
Yeah,
electronics,
42%.
or appliances,
Sean Kelly
and
second.
6
Yeah, with
months,
28.
same as cash.
Graf only
Plus,
with
you can
13.
save
and
big
then-
Pulling up the
on
rear.
select
Graf's got to
products
get in there and vote
like
for
a
himself.
JVC 55
For himself.
Smart
Something to
TV
let him
bundle,
know.
a Samsung laundry pair,
He's
an
driving me
HP
crazy.
desktop and
Someone
more.
wrote
Man.
Zach
No
Streif.
credit needed and free
He like
delivery
sends
and
me
setup.
a
Come to a
text
participating
begging
store
me
or
to
visit
change the
Aaron's.com.
photo that we had in
Get
there.
6 months, same as cash.
He goes,
During Aaron's Lucky Days.
He goes, look at it, I look like an idiot. I was doing that thing. It was 6 years ago, and I was 4 Jamesons in or something like that. I go, no one knows that.
It does look very dear. The headline's like, oh, hey.
So I changed it. I go, you're worse than like a girlfriend. He
With new Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment from L'Oreal.
goes, I'm not going to get the job because of that photo.
Revives dry hair, leaving it healthier, shinier, and 10 times more nourished. Revive dry hair with Elvive Extraordinary Oil Hair Treatment. Discover the complete line of Elvive hair care from L'Oreal Paris at your local retailer today.
Because you're worth it.
iHeartRadio now makes it even easier to listen to all your favorite podcasts.
3 of the
No need
fastest
for another
4
app. All
combine
the biggest
times.
names in podcasting can be found in the iHeartRadio app.
Dante
Literally
Jackson, Terry
thousands of
Nicholson,
them,
this
like
Denzel
NPR's
Ward
full
guys
lineup
from
of
Ohio,
podcasts,
and then
including the
DJ
TED
Sharp.
Radio Hour, plus Bill Simmons, How Stuff Works, the New York
2 of them
Times,
from New
comedian
Orleans.
Mark Maron, Barstool Sports, and more. All
Yeah,
available
Sharp,
for
they were-
free. Now your favorite radio app can be your favorite podcast app.
Yeah.
Download or open the free iHeartRadio app and tap podcast to start exploring.
By the time that
Who's that
we got
offensive
up,
line?
All right, 1 minute.
it was filled with smoke.
The wind had blown.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Orlando Brown. What?
Yeah.
5'8", it reminded me of like Andres Pete at the.
I heard the smoke
And he
alarm
could only
going
do
off in
like
my friend's apartment. Without
14
the kid
on
is
the
smoking,
reps.
my son would not be here today.
Had it not been
Yeah, he weighs
for that
300
carbon
something
monoxide
pounds, and he
detector,
barely
they
did
would
bench
close
press.
school and not have their teacher
you
there.
going to.
I grabbed my fire extinguisher and put out the fire.
Kidda makes technology
Yeah.
that saves lives.
Get these essential products.
Assuming I'm not
30
hungover.
seconds.
I think I'll make it.
Y'all got Bill, right?
Bill and Slide out.
Pharmacy at
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just a bill. I am only a bill.
Okay, we already got that out last
Yeah,
week.
you're right.
Stop. Thank you.
$5.99. Get low prices on thousands of items.
Conjunction, junction. What's your function?
Up to $50 in
Picking
Target
up
coupons and
clauses
not
and
valid on certain
phrases.
purchases.
I have no idea what's going on.
Go to cvs.com/extra
Crap,
care
it
dash
is
Target
crap
or the
radio.
pharmacy for details.
Oh.
This is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Talking about Pelicans. They keep winning, and they keep surprising the hell out of us and probably a hell of a lot of other people. So let's head up to Slidell. Let's talk with Bill. Hey, Bill, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey,
Hey, how y'all doing this morning?
We're good.
Great.
Okay, let's look at a few things with the Pelicans for this year and next year, if you think about it. Realistically, even with Boogie, we weren't really going to contend for the title. Now, we're probably going to be in the playoffs, but we're still probably a year or so away. So now you look at it this way. Boogie's out. If you bring back Boogie next year, which you probably will do it, say he's 75% of what he was. 75% of Boogie is still a lot better than most players that you could probably have in that situation. But also look at it this way. Going into the season, you had Boogie and AD as your front court, backed up by Dante Cunningham, Agenza, and Ashik. Now you have a situation where going into next year, you could be Boogie and AD with a backup of Mecca Okafor, if you can re-sign him to maybe say another one-year deal, a check who's getting better, and also now you got Mirotic. And you really have a three-man rotation of Mirotic, Davis, and also Boogie. And then you got Solomon Hill coming back from an injury for defense. So, you know, we have some possibilities for next year and everything. I'm still hoping we're going to do something this year, but I'm looking forward to that more so. I'll hang up and listen to y'all, okay?
Hey, Bill, appreciate the phone call. Yeah, I agree. I'm also looking forward to, at some point, seeing what they have with Frank Jackson. Remember, he hasn't played, their second-round pick. I'm curious to see, because before the injury, he seemed promising. So if you could add a healthy body, and I know second-round pick, but look how well, say, someone like Darius Miller has blossomed. And he was a second-round pick. I know he left and came back, but he's a key cog to this team. So I do think we're looking at a bright future. I'm just curious to see how much it's going to cost for DeMarcus Cousins. And in a normal world, if he's healthy, I think we have no problem, and we wouldn't even really have to discuss, all right, max deal, move on, he's going to be back with the Pelicans. The injury is certainly the biggest X factor of the entire situation.
It's a huge X factor. Do they offer him the max now, not knowing how he comes back from this injury? I think they've got to bring him back just for the fact that AD wants him back. I mean, you don't have to do everything Anthony Davis wants, but in this case, it makes a lot of sense. Like Bill said, even if he's 75%, that's still a pretty good player. And I actually think of all players to get an Achilles injury, someone like Cousins, who's mainly dealing with like low post play. I know he shoots a lot of basic standstill threes.
You love that.
Well, yeah, that's my favorite part of his game.
And the turnovers.
That and the driving like a bull in a china shop into the lane, throwing up a crazy layup.
Jeff's favorite.
But I do think there's a question there. I mean, I do think it shouldn't be a no-brainer, but I think it's going to be. But I don't think it should be, because I think there's enough questions there, and this team is playing well enough without him that you could take that big chunk of change that you're going to give him and maybe use it in free agency for someone else.
I do think you have to seriously check out all of your options.
Yes.
You cannot just go in, all right, we're going to do this. And it's different than, say, last offseason, where I think you had no choice but to sign Drew Holiday to a big-time max deal. Now, that's coming out looking like roses because he's been playing incredible. Without him, the Pelicans are not winning 8 games in a row. He's played lights out consistently. You're not going to hear me complain about him anymore.
Whoa. Did you hear that, Clyde?
I can't do it.
Did you hear that?
I cannot complain about it.
Do I need to go back and clip that too so we have that for posterity?
Skeptical McGee over here.
Yes, because possibly at some point I might complain about him if he comes in the tank. But look, just a tweet just now from our own Will Guillory. Drew Holiday is 15th in points in the paint this season. The only other guard in the top 20 is Russell Westbrook. He's being more aggressive. That's what it shows you, and
yes,
it's been a huge plus for the Pelicans.
Yeah, and I think we have to give some props to Dell Demps here. Larry, you alluded earlier to the acquisition of Darius Miller. They brought in Emeka Okafor off the street. Anybody could have brought that guy in. He's been a pleasant surprise. And they pulled off the trade for Mirotic, which a lot of people were interested in bringing him in. And that's worked out now. He's starting to find his groove a little bit. And he's going to be here for at least one more year for sure after this year. That was a big deal to be able to bring him in the wake of the Cousins injury. So as much grief as everybody gives Dell Demps, you have to give him credit for when he deserves it, and he certainly deserves it.
Absolutely.
And Czech Diallo, he played really well last night, and I think he's starting to now see more minutes in the rotation. So I think he's starting to find his groove a little bit. And another player I'm really interested to see how he improves with the team, because they just signed him to a second 10-day contract. Walter Lemon had some moments last night because he was going up against Trying to think of their guard's name, but like literally, he looked very well. He was not shy about driving in the lane, trying to get close to the basket.
Well, he's definitely not shy.
Yeah, he's definitely not shy, but that's someone you want because I mean, if he's coming off the bench and you want to have someone who has that eye and that knack for being able to drive in the lane, get points, he might be able to do it.
All right, let's take a break right here on this show. When we get back, we will talk with our colleague Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist here at NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Awesome story about local product Joe Estee trying to fight his way into the NFL, and more importantly, being a father to his nephews in a tough situation, a college kid, and doing it right, getting help from everyone up at University of Tennessee Martin. Even the chancellor is lauding Joe Estee on Twitter from this story. Right away. He's saying he'd give him a job recommendation to anyone in America because of how hard he's worked. Great student, fighting to get to the NFL. Great story. So we'll talk with Ron Higgins about that next. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Clive called me a racist, by the way.
Sports 1280.
I did.
New Orleans.
Because I got 6 white guys in my.
I did not call him a racist. I did not say that is not fair. I just said that he is more highly keenly aware of his own race than others.
70s this afternoon with a stray shower or two around and more.
I looked at my draft as we were sitting here and I'm like,
I do expect that we'll see those rain chances increasing overnight tonight
as
a
a
cold
racist,
front
don't even
pushes
know it.
through the
It
area.
just comes out and
I don't even know it. A couple of thunderstorms.
That's usually how it works.
As well. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist.
And
Shelby
it's hard for
Lino.
me to
Have a great
acknowledge
day.
that
Want a great meal
claim,
for under $5?
considering
Subway restaurants have 5.
if
That's 1 of 5 6-inch
if you
subs,
picked
plus
out one
chips and a
athlete that
21-ounce
Jeff has the
fountain drink
biggest
for
crush on in the
$4.99
face of
only at Subway.
all time,
Limited
it's
time
Marcus
only at
Colston.
participating restaurants.
Exactly.
There's
That's
no,
true.
there's
He was one of
no
my favorites
ifs,
too,
ands, or buts about
so
it.
Welcome back, everyone.
That's
This
fair.
is Mitch on the mic, and we've got Yogi Master.
He just thinks
Katie
he's a
in the
wonderful,
studio
beautiful
Was
answering
man.
that you that was telling me, or
All right,
somebody
here's
else
the
telling
first
me
caller.
how?
Here's Ryan from Georgia.
When I was
Ryan.
telling you
What
all
can I
about
help you with
Vilma
today?
and the problems with Kim Trahan,
What steps should I
Kim
take
Trahan
to
said the
maintain
exact
my-
opposite.
All right, we
Colston
got
is like
Higgins and a
nicest
little
guy in the
bit
world.
over a minute.
Meditate on that
He said
one.
Go to
Colston
Yoga
like took
Masters
his
to perfect
family
your
to the
downward
Saints Hall of
dog.
Fame.
Go to Making Sense from
went
Navy
through it
Federal
all,
to
was
perfect your mortgage
spent
plan.
all this
Stretch
time in
your
the Hall of
financial
Fame showing
knowledge
his
at
kids,
NavyFederal.org/Making Sense.
telling
Federally insured by
Ken if he needed
NCUA.
anything
Equal
from
housing
him.
lender.
At
Just a good
CVS
dude.
Pharmacy at
That's
Target,
nice.
we put
I
a
mean, he
lot
seems
of
like
heart
JV.
into everything we do, like actively looking to save
I've
you
been
money.
on that train for
Generics,
years.
90-day
So-
refills,
I've been on that
even
train for
rewards.
years.
Get a $5
No
Target coupon for
problem me
every
jumping
10
off that
prescriptions.
bandwagon. I'm
Your next
I'm
Target
driving
run,
that one.
Stop by CVS Pharmacy. We're the place
I'm
with the
buckled in
big
and
heart.
driving
Not
the
valid
bus.
on all prescriptions, including those purchased in Arkansas, New Jersey, or New York. Other restrictions apply. See cvs.com/extracare-target or the pharmacy for details. CVS Pharmacy at Target. Health is everything.
Mr. Red's Seafood and Italian Restaurant, serving the best fried chicken in town. Fresh Louisiana seafood as well as delicious Italian dishes.
Oh yeah, even
For our
Joe
daily chef specials.
jumped
Our
in the
overstuffed
comment
pork
section of
open
the
Monday through
story
Saturday
and was
from 11
thanking
a.m. to
people
9
for
p.m.
like
Really? Seriously?
Locations to
Yeah.
serve.
God, what a
In
great guy.
Bucktown,
Yeah. It's like the
1001
best story
Live
ever.
Oak,
Wow.
Bonneville and
It
Lake
was
County.
really well
Kenner
done.
at
Yes.
910 West
I've never
Main
even,
at
I mean, until I read it, I've never even
seconds?
heard of this
Me
guy.
neither.
Yeah.
Mr. Red's
That's
Seafood
one of my
and Italian
questions. I'm
Restaurant.
like, how did
Two
you
great
come about
locations,
Yeah, it's good.
One great
It's
menu.
great.
Mr. Ed's Oyster Bar and Fish House, now open in the quarter 7 days a week at 512 Bienville.
Your home for home team talk. Sports 1280 New Orleans.
I'm ready.
Welcome back to the show. Pleased to be joined by our colleague Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist for NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune, and wonderful story over the weekend. If you missed it, go check it out on NOLA.com about local product from Bonneville, Joe Estee, and his having to be student, football player, and father figure for his nephews. Unbelievable story. Ron, first off, I want to applaud you. Awesome job with the story. One of the best things I've read all year.
Well, I had a really good time doing that story, and it was I knew it was a special story as soon as I heard about it. And when you get something like that, you just try to screw it up. You just try to kind of move it along and stay out of the way of the story. I mean, because it's so good. You just get into it, organize it, and kind of let it run.
Ron, first question, how did you become alerted of the story? Because it's not like Joe is this big-time recruit or a big-time prospect in the NFL world and went to Bonneville, not exactly known as a football power. Now, it's amazing. I've heard of Arthur Millette and now Joe Estee. But how did you come about this story?
Well, the Gary Sheffer, the guy who trains him, he originally called our former recruiting writer James Smith, and James said he said I think Ron Higgins probably could write this story better than I could. So he called me and he told me the story, and I immediately knew that it could be really, really good. And then when I went there the first time and watched him train and sat down my first time I talked about an hour to him, I just knew it was it was an unbelievable story. And that's when I came back and kind of told the editors, this could be really, really good, and they agreed. And that's when they put our photographer and video people onto it, and we went back there again and did the video and got some more stuff from him, and it was and just kind of went from there. It's one of the more special stories I've done. I've done some pretty good stories in my career. I mean, kind of stuff like, I love doing stories like this that are kind of offbeat or different. I did a couple in Memphis like this. I did one in Memphis about a kid who led his team to the state tournament in basketball as a junior, but one day in downtown Memphis, he got he kind of stole a woman's purse, and he stole a woman's purse and got arrested, and the judge put him for some reason, in jail for his senior year in a community college in Kansas. The coach came down and basically recruited him off the witness stand and turned the kid's life around. And I went to Kansas to follow the kid, and the kid, it turned his life around. So I love stories like this where there's very much a human element to it, to where there's overcoming some kind of odds. And then in this case, I mean, this Joe Estee is just a special person.
Ron, I'm curious, I know you articulated it somewhat in the story, but what are his NFL prospects?
Well, I mean, I think if he goes around to 4.37, and he did it twice, just a couple of weeks ago, and Gary's a really good speed trainer. The kid's got he's got a nice body. They can just get him in a camp. We'll see what happens. I mean, I think Joe's a long shot. He knows he's a long shot, but hey, he's been a long shot his entire life. That's why nothing really bothers him. I mean, you read the story. I mean, he was an academic non-qualifier and got a shot at a junior college and played well there. Got hurt 4 games that year. Kind of took some scholarship offers away. He ended up going to D1 AA and played well there. And I think this is a kid that's going to keep. He's going to keep trying until he can't try anymore, because he's playing for more than himself. He's playing for his nephews and support them. And as you read at the end of the story, I mean, this isn't your average guy. I mean, your average Joe, he's already got a plan. If football doesn't work, he wants to become a pediatrician. So this is a guy who's really about as well-grounded as you can find.
Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist, joining us right here on Dunc and Holder. I love the headline. Clear eyes, full house, can't lose. Perfect headline for this story. And part of this story is the full house. Just if people haven't read it, I obviously go read it. But just for our listeners, express how Joe had to become a father figure and basically take in his nephews and bring them with him to college, multiple states away from home.
Well, Joe, he eventually got to Tennessee Martin, 1AA school. He's there about a month, and he gets a call from his mother and says, I can't take care of the nephews anymore, the kids. And they're the nephews of Joe's sister, who has some substance abuse problems, and really, past several years, this has been very erratic and unreliable. And so the mother had the nephews, and so Joe said, okay, I'm going to see what I can do. The next day, the coaches noticed he wasn't himself at workouts, and the head coach brought him in. He told him, he said, Coach, I'll have to quit football. I got to take care of my nephews. They need me. And he said, now let's think about this. And he said, what about if you brought him up here? And Joe really thought about it and didn't really hesitate. He said, okay, yeah, man. And so the unbelievable part of this is he went back to get him in May, and he can't find his mother. So he kind of tracks his mother down by phone and says, where the nephews? She goes, I don't know. His sister took him somewhere, and I don't know where they are. so for the next month and a half, while I was in New Orleans, Joe's looking for the kids. I mean, like you said, I felt like a bounty hunter. And he finally tracked him down probably in mid-July or late July before he went back to camp, and tracked him down in Mississippi at his sister's father's house, and basically got him from him and brought him back there, and then started his life with the kids. And it's a story about not just Joe, but everybody realizing what Joe was doing at UT Martin, and everybody kind of pitching in, from the coach's wife to the team to the school, and then they knew it was a special deal, and that was the great part. And then a year later, I mean, about a year ago, in February a year ago, his mother calls and says that she's homeless. She has nowhere to go. I mean, she was sleeping in a truck in a parking lot at the Treasure Chest Casino. She lost her truck. She had no place to go. And so he gets her a bus ticket, brings her to Memphis, and has her come live up there. And he turned her life around. So this kid's absolutely, an unbelievable big heart, and kind of like this magic touch. He gives and gives and gives, and everybody around him loves him, and everybody around him, of course, is pulling for him because they know how hard he's worked and how he's done all this, and nothing. It doesn't seem to be a burden on him. Even though it has to be, to him it's like a natural deal, like it was meant to be.
Ron, what kind of reaction have you gotten from the story? Have you heard from Joe? And what's the reaction been like once the story dropped?
Well, Joe was just thrilled by it, very appreciative. This is an extremely humble kid, just extremely, just absolutely without ego at all. The hope is that this will get out. Some pro teams will see it, and at least give him a chance, just based on character. Just give me a chance to run. I mean, he's got his pro day in about a week at UT Martin. Of course, it's not a circus like LSU's is. I mean, this is Division I AA school. They have about 8 or 9 guys who are going to be at their pro day up there, and hopefully, like I said, he'll run a good time, and maybe this story will get out, and teams will see. Let's at least give this kid a chance. That's all Joe's asking for. I just want a chance to play anywhere. He goes, I'll play Canadian, anything. I just want a chance to play and because I love football and I want to support my nephews.
Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist, join us right here on Dunc and Holder. And Ron, just struck me, if you go look in the comment section of the story, people were pulling for Joe, and he jumped in the comment section, created a profile just to thank everyone for having such support. I think that's just a small snapshot of what kind of guy we're talking about here.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm telling you, this kid is absolutely special. He really is. I don't know if I've ever met an athlete like him who has done what he did. I mean, to take nephews in while you're in college. You're trying to. I mean, here's a kid who's all since he was in high school, trying to academically fight back and show people that he is smart. He needs to apply himself, and he went to a junior college, got a 3.7. Went to UT Martin, got a 3.5 grade point average. In the middle of all this, he's trying to play football. Then he's trying to raise nephews. And like I said, I don't think I've ever come across anybody like him. As far as a story subject. I mean, just very, very special person.
Yeah, Ron, wonderful story. I can't say enough how awesome of a job you did for such a great kid. But I do want to touch on LSU here real quick. Good win against Mississippi State over the weekend. Solidifies an NIT spot, you think, for the Tigers?
Yeah, I think so. I think they have 7 wins over top 50 RPI teams. They beat State, which just a couple of weeks ago had been near the top of the SEC about a week or so ago. Beat State, had some good wins, and I think they're in the NIT. No matter what happens in their first round game on Thursday, they play Mississippi State again. No matter what happens in there, I think they're in the NIT. And for this team to be in the NIT is it's probably the best first-year coaching job by an LSU basketball coach, probably since I'm going to say Dale's first year. And I'm because I'm thinking about just like Dale's first year, having not much talent there left at all, and just taking it and turn it to a viable team. And really, you know, I think like maybe brought back maybe 4 players, maybe tops 5, and then, you know, threw in 2 really good freshmen who contributed, a graduate senior and a junior college transfer. And, you know, they play together, they play hard. You know, they don't have much depth and they don't have much height. And that's why Wade's a really good coach, but he's found ways to win games despite that. And he understands they can only win a couple of ways because of their lack of depth and height. But, you know, they've won 17 games. I mean, it's you know, ridiculous for that team to win 17 games. Back in May when I talked to him at the SEC meetings, I said, "How's it going?" He looked at me, and goes, "I think we're going to be pretty bad this year."
Wow.
And he, you know, and he was serious. He really felt that. And then, you know, during the season, he had, you know, he fluctuated up and down after the, you know, first, you know, 2-3 SEC games where they came out of the gate really fast. He thought, okay, they're going to be pretty good. And then they hit that spell. They lost straight around. He goes, God, you know, I can see what we really are. The reality is we're this team. We don't have much height. And when I go to my bench, I don't have anybody, you know, I can bring it over 6'6", and I can only go about 3 deep on my bench. So I've got to figure ways to keep my guys, my starters, fresh, and hopefully play a style that keep them out of foul trouble, and play a style basically offensively that plays to their strengths. And for the most part, he's done that. As you see, there's some teams he can't match up with ever, like Alabama. He said I could play Alabama 10 times this year. I wouldn't beat them. We don't match up physically with it, but a lot of other teams we do. And so I think next year he's got the number 3 recruiting class in the nation coming in. The Cavalry is coming, and I think you'll see this program. I'll be surprised unless the chemistry is really terrible next year, bringing in new guys. But he's pretty good about chemistry. This team should be in the NCAA tournament next year.
Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. Hey, Ron, really appreciate you taking the time. And once again, kudos. Great story on Joe Estee. One of the best stories I've read in quite some time. So really appreciate it. Great work. And thanks for jumping on the show, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
You got it. All right. That's Ron Higgins, LSU SEC columnist. Why don't we take a break right here on the show? We get back. He referenced the SEC tournament. We'll give you kind of the scope because conference tournaments are going on right now. SEC, the American, Southland, of course. Sun Belt's going to be here in town. Let's kind of lay out what's going to be happening in all these tournaments because we've certainly got some potential. Southland to have a Louisiana team, Sun Belt to have a Louisiana team getting the NCAA tournament. So let's spell it all out. We'll do that next year on Sports 1280. NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. We're Duncan Holder. Put the pistol down.
Did you see the video of Goodell running running like a 40-yard dash in the NFL offices down the hallway? I just retweeted it. It looks like it's not even real, but it's him.
If you need a payday loan fast, try LendUp.com.
Brian McCarthy's there.
Video. You can have cash in your account.
Of course he is.
LendUp.com, the better payday loan.
It's going to go viral. There's no
Subject to
doubt.
availability in your state. LendUp is a licensed credit services organization,
running,
not a direct lender in Ohio
sprinting
and
down
Texas.
the hallway in
Did you know,
NFL
with the free
offices,
iHeartRadio
Park
app,
Avenue.
you can type in the name of your favorite artist and get a station full of their biggest hits, including similar artists picked just for you, songs hand-picked by real people, fellow music fanatics. And as you thumb songs up or down, we personalize the station to fit you even better.
Yeah, look,
it's
here it
that
is.
easy. Just type in the name of your favorite artist and let us get to work. It's the easy to use
Of course you don't.
And radio,
Look.
and it couldn't be simpler. Download our free iHeartRadio app
Look at this.
today.
This Sunday, our iHeartRadio Music Awards
Good Lord, he is running.
Dude,
Dude, I'm waiting for him to wipe out.
Watch, there's McCarthy. And look, here he
Probably got to
comes.
be dash.
He comes walking by, he's got his tennis shoes on.
Surprises
Do it, maniac.
Sunday night at 7 on TBS.
She's giving high fives.
Brought to you by Taco Bell. Introducing
No,
Taco
same.
Bell's
Comes
$1
from
nacho
Friday
fries.
Night Lights.
Covered
I was going to say the only thing that was missing.
The
only thing that was missing is some explosions in the sky.
Taco Bell near you.
People who name their savings accounts save more than those who don't.
That's the band. The band that makes all the music for
that
made all the music for Friday Night Lights. They're an Austin band. Their name is Explosions in the Sky.
Oh, we needed this. What do you think the
There's
kids
Clyde coming up with the fact of the day.
You're welcome.
I'm always learning something from Clyde.
That's what I do. That's what I brought. So I bring to the table every day.
And give a name to what you're saving for.
Learning something and avoiding cheap
Open to
shots.
everyone in the armed forces, the DoD, veterans, and their
Nichols
families.
wins Saturday.
Federally insured
Oh,
by
and there's a
NCUA.
cheap shot.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we put a
I
little
didn't do
extra
that.
heart.
I know you didn't.
Everything
I know you
we
didn't.
do.
It's fine.
Like actively looking to save you money. Generics, 90-day refills, even rewards. Get a $5
wouldn't be a
Target
Monday
coupon
without a
for
little
every
jabbing.
10
Yeah, a little jabbing.
On your
I
next
just, by the
Target
way,
visit,
like,
stop by CVS
I
Pharmacy.
got
We're
in my
the
car
place with the
last
big
night.
heart.
I was almost out of
Not
gas.
valid
I'm
or on
like,
prescription.
oh my God, I
Purchase
can't run
in
out of gas.
Arkansas, New Jersey, or
So
New
then I
York.
get up
Other
this morning. I'm
Not
still
where
so
you
fuzzy.
were.
I
You're
had-
at Bacchanal. That's probably not
Still so fuzzy. I had to drive all the way down here without putting gas in my car. Then I'm thinking, what if I run out on that
You're in
circular
luck all this month
thing
during
going
Aaron's Lucky
up
Days.
the ramp?
Get
That would be a
started leasing
nightmare.
to own furniture,
What would you
electronics,
do?
or appliances,
I had a
and
hell
get
of a
6
morning already,
months same
too.
as cash. Plus, you can save
I don't
big
understand,
on select
like,
products
I
like
mean,
living
just-
I never get low on
room,
gas,
smart
never.
TV
I'm always
bundle,
good about
a
keeping my
Samsung
gas
laundry
filled
pair,
up.
an HP
But
desktop, and more.
things
With
happen,
no
Clyde.
credit
Like,
needed
I left my
and free
keys
delivery
with my
and setup.
father-in-law's
Come to a
bag
participating
yesterday.
store
I had
or
to
visit
literally run down the
Aarons.com
street,
and get 6 months
get
same as
my
cash
keys, run back
during
to the
Aaron's
car.
Lucky
Kids are
Days.
basically late to school.
Transaction
Get out the car. Brady has this project with a robot.
change the
He
whole
made
world.
this arts and
The
crafts
robot.
robot. The
Change in
cone
the
on his
world
head
for a
fell
child.
off.
Every
He's
game
Oh,
like a
Lord.
disaster, distraught. I'm like the worst dad
Cone on his
ever.
head fell off.
This is so great. God.
Then I'm like borderline late to bringing Chase to school. I look in the back seat. My backpacks, I left it at home. And I still got here in time and did the post. It was already
Duncan Holder
boom.
Nice.
on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
I've got Clyde crying over here because of the absurdity of my morning.
That was the greatest string, dude. You did not take a breath. You fired it all off within reason. It was a great story. Kudos to you, man.
That was a YouTube only story, even though it wasn't like something bad. I just
No,
wasn't.
it was just-
I wasn't
it was-
exactly
it was
dad
one
of
of
the
those-
year this morning.
I would say that's like very sitcom dad comedy-esque, just calamity of errors, trying to get kids to school in the morning, and then you realize, oh hey, I don't have the stuff to do my job. Oh, zaniness.
It was basically because I don't know if I've ever told this story on the air, and we're just on a tangent, but it relates. So the first time I ever met my mother-in-law, she comes up to me and screams, I'm totally gonna embarrass her. Ray! No, my name's Larry. Ray! Larry. Ray! And I turned to first time we've ever, first or second time me and my future wife have ever, we're at a wedding. And I turn and whisper to her, I was like, is your mom seriously deaf? Is she deaf? I don't think she's hearing me. And then she says, no, you're like Ray Romano from Everybody Loves Raymond. And so at one point in life, I lived directly across the street from my in-laws, sports columnist. So I lived this sitcom. This is my life. And what took place today was an episode of the sitcom.
Yeah, that actually doesn't sound like a terrible sitcom idea. It's way better than whatever Tony Kornheiser and all that junk from.
Poor George Costanza couldn't pull that one off.
Couldn't pull that one
What
off.
was the name of that show? Clyde just gotta have to know.
Shoot, I wish I did. I just remember the show. I don't remember the name.
Clyde's
I
not
can't
out of the
believe
game
it.
today.
Whoa.
Didn't know the Nichols Southeastern score. Doesn't know this.
But I did give you Explosions in the Sky.
That's actually true. From what was it? Clear Eyes, Full Heart, Can't Lose.
Friday Night Lights.
Exactly. That's where that headline plays off of, Jeff.
I'm
The
learning
TV
something.
show.
I learn something every day about pop culture with you two.
There you go.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely. LSU going to be taking on Mississippi State again. Significant win at the PMAC to finish off their regular season over the weekend. They avoid the first game of the SEC tournament. They will take on Mississippi State Thursday night, 6 p.m., and they will then, the winner of that game would take on Tennessee. So they don't have to, they're not in the first 4 games where South Carolina's taking on Ole Miss, Georgia's taking on Vandy. So good for LSU. I think the Mississippi State win. I'm with Ron. I said that's another big-time RPI. I know how antiquated that is. It's an RPI win. I think they get an NIT no matter what they do in the tournament.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I mean, and that's a great step for the program. And as Ron said, they've got this incredible recruiting class coming in next year. You would think they would end their drought, their NCAA tournament drought. When was the last tournament appearance for the Tigers?
Last tournament appearance was when they lost to NC State and they had the lead. It was
Yes.
Jarrell Martin and
Jordan Mickey's
last year because they both went pro after that.
Sophomores, right?
Yeah, because they were sophomores. So that was 2015, 2015, I believe.
I think you're right. And that was a crushing loss because they actually had
they had the
game.
lead for most of the
Seemed like
game.
they had that game won.
Yeah.
Kind of squandered it there in the last few minutes. And look, we were talking about this being a down year for basketball in the state, but actually as I look at the standings, Louisiana Lafayette, probably the favorite to win the Sun Belt Conference tournament. They'll probably get in the tournament even if they don't win, I would think. They've got such a high RPI
I
McGee.
don't know about that.
RBI McGee, what do you think?
Their strength of schedule is very low, and I would assume the Sun Belt is a one-bid league. I've seen in bracketology land ULL as high as a 12 seed. So you have an argument. They'd have to lose like in the finals, maybe at a buzzer beater. They can't lose early in the tournament.
And you'd think that probably there's a likelihood or a good chance that a Louisiana school comes out of the Southland.
You'd hope so. You have the
think.
top two seeds in Southeastern Nichols and UNO sitting there at the 5 seed, although they're going to need to win 4 games in 4 days to even, make that run.
And I got to tell you, we didn't talk about this last week, but when I went to that UNO game, and something we haven't really reported, I don't think, is that Trayvon Thibodeau, their best player, has been suspended, what looks like for the rest of the season, by Coach Sless for some kind of violation of team rules. He hasn't gotten into the specifics. But I thought it was interesting. Coach Sless spoke to a UNO group at lunch last week at Katie's, and when I was there, he was talking about that decision, how difficult it can be sometimes, hard discipline, and he said, look, it's going to hurt us in the short term, but it's the best thing for our program long term. It's going to help us win next year and the year down the line by making this decision now. What I thought was impressive about this, Trayvon Thibodeau was on the bench at the game the other night, cheering for his teammates, even though he's been suspended, obviously let the team down. But he wasn't pouting. He didn't go off and quit the team. He's a part of the team and is out there doing his job. And I thought that was impressive.
UNO going to be taking on Texas A&M Corpus Christi in the first round of the Southland Conference. They did not get a bye at all. They're one of the first 4 teams that have to play. They play at 5 o'clock, will be on Wednesday. If they win that game, then they would take on Sam Houston State. Southeastern and Nichols have the double bye. They don't play till Friday in the semis. Southeastern would take on the winner of
2 minutes.
Which game? The Sam Houston. No, it's the Sam Houston State
yeah.
/ I'm trying to. All these
It's
double
a big
buys.
bracket. Yeah, it's tough.
These double buys are crazy. Yeah.
And Grambling is also, I think they had finished the regular season champ of the SWAC. So we have another potential NCAA tournament team.
Just to kind of give you an update also on ULL, because the Sun Belt tournament is at the UNO Lakefront Arena. They have the double bye in that tournament. They will play at 11:30 a.m. on Friday. So if you want to go check that out at UNO, you could go do that as well. And don't forget, of course, you're home for Tulane men's basketball. They start the American. That's going to be a tournament a lot of people are going to be watching.
Yep.
Cincinnati, of course, big Wichita State, Houston. So that's certainly more than a one-bid league. So Tulane is going to be taking on Temple. Tulane is the 10 seed. They take on Temple at 6 o'clock is tip time. Well, I guess it's the first game of the night session, so it will be for sure. 6 o'clock tip time, 5:30 pregame on Thursday. You can hear that right here on Sports 1280, of course, your flagship station for Tulane men's basketball. I've been rambling without a breath. I need to take a commercial break.
Congrats to Melvin Frazier for being
Yes.
named second team All-American, I believe. So congratulations to him. And obviously a lot of the schools and
Pelicans
conferences.
tickets next hour.
And a lot of the schools and conferences are going to be announcing their all-conference teams and players of the year, defensive players of the year. So we'll be seeing more of those, and we'll wear them too when we get them.
Yep. Hour number 1 is up. Hour number 2 is on the way. We will be giving away Pelicans tickets next hour. So don't you go anywhere. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
But girls at the door, we chill.
Yeah, dude. You went into the break not breathing, and then he was like,
diving in.
Just need to get all the tournament stuff out
People who name their savings accounts save
see how
more.
the polls
Wild, wild west.
Was inspired by a Navy Federal Credit Union savings
rally.
account named
All right, so we got a pair of tickets for The Pelicans March 9th
Sean
versus
Kelly is
the
a smart
Wizards.
choice. He has done preseasons. He has done preseason
Let me see what
Saints
the
Pels
tip
radio
time
for
is.
years, and he's very articulate and descriptive.
Open a Save First account with
professional,
Navy
but not
Federal Credit
robotic,
Union and
and
give a name to what
some
you're saving
decent
for.
humor.
Navy Federal.
7 o'clock tip. Versus,
Now remember,
oh wait, no, I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Then you got
Put
me
a
and
little
Donald
extra
Trump.
heart into everything we do.
Yeah, okay, March
Don't
9th,
get the
7
love from Mike
p.m.
Haas.
Wizards.
Has he ever done
90-day
play-by-play?
refills,
Do people not
yes,
realize
Friday.
that it is
This
a different
Friday.
skill set
Time
than
for
being
every
talking
10
on the news?
prescriptions. On your next Target run, stop by CVS Pharmacy. We're the place with the big heart. Not valid on all prescriptions.
Yeah, like how about
including
like
those
when you
purchased
go out
in
to do this,
Arkansas,
don't
New Jersey,
breathe.
or New
Just
York.
breathe
Other
it, just
restrictions
get it in.
apply. See CVS.com
And don't let it out.
Micro machine.
CVS Pharmacy at Target. Health is everything.
WODT.
It's like Frankie and Johnny's. I say. Who say I say? Frankie say I say.
Search Sports 12.
Never heard that. What is that?
What? You never heard that commercial?
No.
Frankie and Johnny's Furniture?
No.
Oh my God! All right, hold on.
Jeff, Jesus.
You heard that?
Yes, I'm from here. I have heard
There
it.
will not be a
From
Frankie
here.
and Johnny's.
You're from the bayou.
Come on, dude.
You're from the bayou.
I got
Yeah.
the $50.
Let them have it.
Be April 2nd. Some opinions, though, could emerge in the next couple of weeks.
With no problem.
With no problems. That's the best.
At 4.32 seconds. They 3 are LSU's Dante Jackson, Tulane's Perry Nickerson, and Ohio State's Denzel Ward. NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell, by the way, clocked a 5.4140 in his challenge to Rich Eisen in the Run Rich Run promotion. Of course, Rich will be running his 40 shortly. Former Chargers, Cardinals, and Jets cornerback Antonio Cromartie has retired after 11 NFL seasons, and TMZ reporting that Raiders defensive end Aldon Smith checked into rehab. I'm Ralph Irvin.
Again?
Yeah.
You're in luck all this month during Aaron's Lucky Days. Get
All right, 4.5 minutes.
electronics or appliances and get 6 months same as cash. Plus, you can save big on select products like living rooms, a JVC 55-inch smart TV bundle, a Samsung laundry pair, an HP desktop, and more. With no credit needed and free delivery and setup. Come to a participating store or visit Aaron's.com and get 6 months same as cash during Aaron's Lucky Days. Transaction advertised as a rental purchase agreement. Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Dramatic temperature changes may lead to more heart attacks. A researcher at the University of Michigan found that extreme weather events brought on by global warming could result in worsened cardiac health. Cold weather was found to have the highest risk for the heart. The study found that extreme temperature changes cause stress that contribute to health problems, with heart attacks increasing 5% for every 9-degree change on the Fahrenheit scale. New research suggests that adult-onset diabetes actually consists of 5 different types of disease, not just types 1 and 2. 5 different diseases with different genetic profiles, different physiological markers. That's what Scandinavian researchers have found. Findings they say could bring the promise of personalized treatment for diabetes one step closer. Health Update, Sarah Lee Kessler, NBC News Radio.
This is Dr. Ned
Sounds
Hallowell
like
for
country
ADHD
club.
Awareness Month. Many people
Yes,
think that
put it
having
on the-
ADHD means something is wrong
Put
with
it on
you,
the
when in fact,
Van Der Esch
managed
tab, please.
properly, it can be your
Sounds
greatest
like he
asset.
buddies with a guy named,
I
like,
know
Gilmore
because I have it
Childers
myself.
III.
People
He
with
sounds
ADHD
like he
have
does good.
brains with bicycle
Skyler.
brakes.
He sounds like
Once
he
they
should
learn
be
to
at
control
Lake
their
Tahoe.
brakes, they'll
His family
win
goes to
races.
Lake Tahoe every
For
spring.
tips on managing ADHD,
You see the
listen
story
to
about him?
the
Have you read about it?
podcast
I hope they draft him just so I can go do the
at
story on him.
distractionpodcast.com.
He's like from a town of 46 people.
Coming up in the business
in
week
Idaho
ahead,
or something
January
like that.
reports on factory
And they drive to all of
consumer
his games
credit
on a
and the trade
bus.
deficit. Fourth quarter
All his
reports on
family.
productivity,
Really?
The
labor
big
costs,
tour
and at
bus,
the
and
end
they go
of
to
the
these
week is
road
the
games.
February
Wow.
jobs report.
Cool story.
Consumer
not bad.
confidence remains high, at least
Wouldn't
it
mind
did
getting
as
a story
February
out of
came
that.
to an end.
Hope
The
they grabbed
University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Index increased 4 points from January to 99.7. That's only 1 point lower than October's high and the second highest reading in 14
I love all these
years.
jabronis
The survey's
that
chief
know
economist
so much
says
about the
optimism
mock
the job
drafts.
market and higher wages still offset
They know-
stock market
you know,
volatility. And
there's no way that guy will be there at round 3.
why I
Like they-
wrote it. That's why I wrote a column
Security
I wrote over
experts
the
say it
weekend.
probably
It's like,
isn't
it's
good
just like,
enough,
you
and
don't
chances
All right, 2 minutes.
on the internet.
In fact, look what we found on the internet.
So what we're looking at here is a database.
This email about moving. Good Lord.
That was leaked.
Haven't seen
on
it.
the web.
That's Itai Mayor, former Israeli military technology expert, now
Yeah, get rid of
at
everything.
IBM Security.
If you can't put it in 2 boxes, this can't come with us.
Right here. Right, and that's just one database. There's tens of thousands of databases.
I'm so like I just feel like I'm gonna be claustrophobic and I'm just gonna end up like tackling somebody for no reason because I feel like I have no space.
Not surprising, say experts, since there have been so many mega
that's
hacks
cool.
in
Yeah,
recent
dude.
years.
So we have to assume that there's a good chance our information is out there, which is why we have to keep changing our passwords and updating our accounts.
NBC's Tom Costello
Guys,
reporting
we need to get
potential
prepared
solutions,
for this.
password managers,
I mean, for
two-step
this.
authentication,
I know, we
and
don't know. We don't
biometrics.
know.
We need to,
to
Dave,
latest in the
Dave,
self-driving car-
are you there?
Yeah.
You know, we will need to figure out a plan with technicians to when we
Yeah,
move.
look, what days do you want to be there? What days are you? Wait, what are you talking about?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking. Well, no, I'm talking about moving. Our whole office is moving over.
Okay, all right. I thought we were talking about Zurich.
So no, this would be something we'd have to go set up again. You know, this board and.
What are you looking at? What date?
Literally, we don't know all that, but it's gonna be the first. It's gonna be around the last week of March, first week of April.
Okie doke.
Like it'd be something we'd probably need to do on a weekend or a Monday morning or a Friday after we get done on Friday, probably.
Yeah, probably a Friday.
It will be.
Yeah, after the show on a Friday and get it set up for the next Monday.
Okay. All right. Let me get back with you.
Yeah.
Well, sir, we're just giving you a heads up now. We got
Yeah, that's cool.
couple weeks.
5 seconds.
In our community.
Duncan Holder, hour number 2 on a Monday, March 5th. Larry Holder, Jeff Duncan, Clyde Verdun here with you at our NOLA.com Tom's Picayune Studios. Dave DeCorbier back in iHeart Central. Before we get rolling, you want to go see the Pelicans? They're rolling. At that point, they'll be looking to what? Win their 10th game because they play tomorrow night at the Clippers, and then they have one more road game. So they'd be looking to win their 11th straight the next time you'd be able to go see the Pelicans in the Smoothie King Center. They take on the Wizards at home on Friday, and we have tickets to give away. Pair of tickets, Pelicans against the Wizards on Friday night. Jeff can come up with the dazzling keyword. What you got, Jeff? Keyword on the spot.
How about Bacchanal?
Bacchanal.
Yeah.
It's best I could do on short notice.
Of course.
Short notice.
That's really the best
Drop
you
of a
could
hat.
do on short notice.
He's already thinking of Bacchanal on a Monday. Wow, he's ready to
It's a good word.
booze it up. Bacchanal.
I believe that's a French word. Am I right?
I don't know that. I
Clyde
don't
would
the
know that.
origins
He's
of
from like the French country.
Yeah, I'm
in
from
the Bible.
France. I'm from France. 30 miles down the road, France.
Bacchanalia.
He's from France. All right, Bacchanal is a key word. We're going to ask for it later on in the hour. If you remember it and you give Dave a call, 504-260-1280, you will win the pair of tickets. So that is Friday night Wizards. One more time, the key word when we ask for it, Bacchanal.
An occasion of wild and drunken revelry.
That's what that is?
A priest, worshiper, or follower of Bacchus.
That's you, Jeff.
That does sound like you.
It's kind of our entire show here.
Yeah.
Worshiping
An occasion of wild, drunken revelry.
2 hours.
Let me know when I can do
Bacchanalia.
that.
That's us. 2 hour Bacchanal.
I'd say that's sort of accurate sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Typically on a Friday, not on a Monday, Jeff. Jeez,
No.
settle down.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it is beautiful out again today. We've had unbelievable weather. Finally.
Absolutely.
So it's nice.
As long as we're not talking about Copenhagen turns, we'll be in good shape.
Oh, back
Saw one
on
this
that.
weekend. Saw one this weekend. It was awesome.
Oh, you
Very
had
well
to go
done.
there, Larry.
Very
You
well
had
done.
to go there.
Thanks, Larry.
Clyde, what's the update on our Twitter poll? Can we get a quick update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, for those who may be coming late to the party, our Twitter poll today was on Jeff's column on who should be or who could be the person or persons to follow in the footsteps of Jim Henderson on Saints radio broadcast. As of right now, because the poll is only 2 hours, at Duncan Holder on Twitter, Mike Haas is leading the way with 40%.
Wow.
Just behind is Sean Kelly, The Graph, Todd Graffinini is third, and then we have 14% with other. And for that one, if you have someone else that you think should be, whether Joel Myers or maybe somebody else nationally, tweet that to us as your vote, and then we'll read it on air. Because obviously we've had Joel Myers so far. We've had such people as myself and Donald Trump. That one's funny.
That's viable.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah, that'll work. And then, of course, Zach Streif. But then we do have one person that says simply should be a national search.
Jeff, what was the reaction to your column? Look, it was our main sports piece in Sunday's paper, and I figured it would be much talked about. Look, we spent an entire show almost a couple weeks ago talking about it, people chiming in. What was the reaction you got, whether via comment section or just word on the street or Twitter? Or what was the reaction from your column?
Well, I think there's the overwhelming response is that there's no just standout person. There's no no-brainer pick. It's pretty competitive. Unlike, say, back when Jim Henderson took over for Dave Garrett, he was already in the booth with Dave Garrett. Dave Garrett ended up they moved on from him, and so it was easy to just say, okay, let Jim Henderson be the guy. I don't think there is that person out there right now that everybody unanimously believes is just the no-brainer pick to replace Henderson. And as I noted in the story, I mean, Jim has done that job for almost 30 years now. And in that time, the sports media landscape has changed dramatically. The NFL's become much more high profile. The Saints' job itself, because of what Drew Brees and Sean Payton have done with the organization, it's become a high profile gig. So a lot of people interested in who might get that position. And I do think there's going to be some national applicants because there's only 32 of those jobs going. But what I think a lot of people don't understand is that the job itself is like a part-time job. It's not a full-time job, at least the way it's been operated in the past. Jim Henderson was the sports director at WWL-TV for a long time, and he did this on the side. It was like a moonlighting gig. I'm not sure they're going to be able to pull that off going forward. If you're a national person wants to come in, I mean, it's not a full-time job. So I don't know if it could go to a national person just on the merits of that position alone. I think they'd have to make him him or her, a full-time position, much like what they've done with Deuce McAllister. Deuce is just the color analyst on the games, but he's now fully employed by WWL and is on the radio all the time. So I do think it's going to be interesting to see what direction they go. And I can tell you this, the people involved, the Saints are going to obviously give their blessing on this, but Intercom Communications is making the hire with the blessing of the Saints, but they are keeping their cards close to the vest. If they have somebody that they are leaning toward, they're not letting anybody know because I've talked to all the parties involved, and they are in the dark as well.
Well, I just think it's something we're going to be following because of the person you're following, because Jim Henderson was such an iconic figure in this town as far as sports, broadcasting, you name it. Everyone who wants to be friends with Jim Henderson would go up to Jim Henderson because he's adored. I don't think there's any question. So I think you're probably going to run into the comparisons to Jim Henderson. I think any of the people we've talked about, they're different in the way they do games, their styles. I don't think you're not going to hear maybe as many people be like a wordsmith as Jim Henderson because he's so well known for his columns and editorials that those leak over into his broadcast and make him who he is. I just think the person doesn't have to be Jim Henderson. I think it has to be someone that people know will be passionate about being the play-by-play guy.
But this job is not like, say, the Jacksonville Jaguars play-by-play position. I mean, the Saints are so woven into the fabric of the New Orleans community, and it's just so important that whoever gets that job, I think, has to understand the connection that the city, that the team has with the city and the fan base. This isn't just a regular position. I think it's a little more high profile in that once you get that job, you get a lot of speaking engagements. I mean, you become something of a celebrity, and I think it's all these factors are playing into this decision, and I think they'd like to get somebody on board by the start of the NFL draft because if that's always I always remember Hondo coming out there, and he has a lot of responsibilities on draft day to do interviews with all the coaches and set up the draft. So I would imagine that's kind of the soft deadline to get this thing done.
Yeah, I'm curious to see who it is. I know everyone else is curious, and I know the candidates, some of the people you named, they're all viable candidates, and they're curious because they know how prestigious this job is.
Yeah, good word, prestigious. That's actually what I was searching for earlier. It is, and it's weird because it's high profile, but it's not necessarily highly compensated. I mean, I don't know exactly what it pays, but it's a part-time job. So it just by nature, no one's getting rich being the Saints play-by-play announcer.
Well, you figure at that point it's not so much necessarily about the compensation as much as it is, it's like we talk about when it comes to recruiting in the NCAA, the viability and, you're everywhere. You're going to be not only just on Saints radio broadcast, but like, Larry pointed out, you'll be on draft day coverage, you'll do camp coverage, and then you'll do preseason games, and you're already into your first season. And it's more or less, I think, the idea that we're talking about, the person that eventually comes into the role, number one, from what we can all agree on, is that they've got to have at least some knowledge of the team and or the city, even if it is maybe local or someone maybe that's a transplant somewhere else. But the other thing is, you just got to have a passion for the team. You got to have a passion for calling it the way that people have kind of either come accustomed to it, because they're going to sound different. And that's going to be, I think, my biggest, not concern, but I think it's going to be that gravitational weight that you just kind of have to get past of just, it's not going to be Jim Henderson. It's not going to sound like Jim Henderson. He's not going to have the same cadence as Jim Henderson. But once you get past that and it becomes normal, everybody will forget that. Not necessarily that Jim Henderson exists, but everybody will forget those first couple of, uneasy moments, and then it's right back on into this person is now the voice of Sundays for people in the city of New Orleans.
And I also think with the candidates that Jeff mentioned in his column, that if, say, someone gets this job, you'll have dominoes for other broadcasting jobs in town potentially. So I think that's something to keep aware of. Because let's say, for example, Sean Kelly, we know he's a viable candidate. If he got the job, he's not doing Pelicans anymore. Like someone would need to be the Pelicans play-by-play person. So you'd have a domino effect. So it's just, look, sports media is a big industry that people follow. That's why we're talking about it. And this is, I'm curious to see how the landscape moves forward, because this will, like I said, potential dominoes with other jobs and other voices that we're going to be talking about.
And we've had some people suggest some other candidates that I didn't have listed, and I'm not ruling anybody out, but I do think it's important to note, and Larry, you mentioned this I think during the break, Clyde, we've talked about it, there is a skill to being a play-by-play announcer. If you haven't called games before, I don't think you're going to get this job. I don't think this is a job to put somebody in with training wheels. Yeah. They're going to have broadcast experience and calling games. I mean, if you've ever gone and seen what Jim Henderson does, the preparation that's involved, I don't think you could get this job without having any play-by-play background. So I think that's going to rule out a lot of people that maybe are being offered up as candidates but haven't got that experience.
Yeah, and it's one of those things too where you realize, I know it's very subtle, and I'm a broadcasting nerd because that's just where my background was in terms of just really studying broadcasting, whether it's sports, news, whether it's radio, TV. There's a difference between being able to say that and people who've worked on TV and have done radio can probably tell you this better than I can, like Joel and Sean and a lot of guys. Calling a game on television and calling a game on radio is so drastically different. People who are watching TV can see what's going on. They can see the action. They just need to know all the rest of the ancillary stuff, like how many points that guy's had, the run, things like that. When you're calling a game on the radio, you are literally describing a scene so that people in their own minds can make their own world of what they expect that scene to look like. And it's so different. It's not just, let's stick somebody who's been on TV and let them call a game. It's such a different style of broadcasting that you really do have to have a way with words about it and to be able to be descriptive enough of not just yelling big plays, but really giving the listener an idea of what is going on, the feel of a room, the feel of a stadium, the feel of the team, all that kind of stuff, and it's so drastically different.
Just what color are their jerseys? I mean, you have to describe that as well.
Going left to right on your radio dial, exactly. Things like that.
No, that's a great point. And let's take a break right here on this show. But when the Pelicans hired our former colleague John DeShazer. They didn't hire him to be the play-by-play guy. They hired him to join Sean Kelly. It's one thing to become the analyst, like Deuce McAllister became the analyst to replace the late Hokie Guyjon. It's another to become a play-by-play guy. And look, like I said, I'm curious. I know there's a lot of people who are curious, and we're going to keep following it just because it's such a fabric of the community. So, but yeah, if you missed Jeff's column, go check it out, NOLA.com. And it was in our Sunday paper, so go check that out. So, all right, let's take a break. When we get back, we'll talk Saints. They're adding to the secondary, the NFL Combine. Some local products making some waves in a good way.
Yes.
So we'll talk about that. And your phone calls are welcome. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved here on Sports 1280, NOLA.com, and the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder. Oh, that kind of day for old mushroom.
Good job, Jeff.
How the hell did that happen?
That's a great question. I don't think you could have thrown an ace softer than what you did.
Looking forward to joining the crew, as we'll tell it like it is.
I don't think you could have thrown an ace softer than what you did, and then clearly, yeah, like literally that means the jump.
I would have won some kind of prize at a fair.
This Sunday, our
Oh!
for the love
Yeah.
of music.
Wait till we do this in the new office.
Yeah, we'll be hitting people.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because they can't wait, right? Like if people had, sorry, we just had to get these out every couple weeks. You gotta get these out every couple weeks.
TNT and True TV.
Brought
Dude,
to you
you
by
are-
Taco Bell.
you are
Introducing
struggling.
Taco Bell's $1 nacho fries, covered in bold Mexican spices and
So it's some
dipped
things
in
on your
warm
body?
nacho cheese sauce. Now serving at a Taco Bell near you.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Mitch on the mic, and we've got Yogi Master Katie in the studio answering your questions.
Hello,
Where are you going?
everyone.
All right, we have the first caller. Here's Ryan from Georgia.
Welcome, Ryan. What can I help you with today?
Hi, Katie. What steps should I take to
Oh, so
maintain
you're
my
not-
zen while
I'm
applying
not
for
seeing
my
this
first
Story
mortgage?
about Brian Windhorst.
I'm going to need to
No.
meditate on that one.
Go to a yoga master to perfect your downward dog. Go to Making Sense from Navy Federal
NBA
to perfect your
Commissioner
mortgage
Silver,
plan.
several
Stretch your
top advisors
financial
have been
knowledge at
engaged with
NavyFederal.org/Making Sense.
array of
Federally insured by
stakeholders
NCUA. Equal housing lender.
At CVS Pharmacy at Target, we
Plans
put a little
expected to
extra
include
heart
new day
into
starting
everything we do,
lessons for elite
like
teenagers while they
actively
are in high
looking to
school,
save you
providing
money.
skills to help them
Generics,
develop
90-day
on-off
refills, even
Would
rewards.
ultimately-
Get a $5
ultimately
Target
open an
coupon
alternate
for
path
every
to
10
NBA
prescriptions.
besides playing
On your
college
next
and
Target
late
run,
18-year-olds
stop
taking
by
a meaningful
CVS Pharmacy.
salary
We're the place
from
with the
NBA
big
teams
heart.
as part of an
Not
enhanced
valid on all
option
prescriptions,
developmental
including those
TV.
purchased in
Wonderful.
Arkansas, New Jersey,
That
or
means
New
the
York.
one and
Other
done rule
restrictions apply.
is all
See
You're gonna get rid of one and done, which is what
CVS.com/extra-care-target
they
or the
need to
pharmacy
do.
for details.
And then
CVS
as soon as
Pharmacy
that's
at
over,
Target. Health
the
is
NCAA
everything.
absolutely change that
And
to-
the
change
Oscar
that to
goes
baseball. Really change it across the board. To get kids to, if they don't go pro, then
The Shape
you've
of
got
Water.
The Shape of
3
Water
years in
walking away
college,
with
and
the
that's what that
Oscars
is.
Sunday night for Best Picture and a total of 4 awards. Director Guillermo del Toro called it a dream come true.
And I want to tell you, everyone that is dreaming of a parable of using genre fantasy to tell the stories about the things that are real in the world
Whatever that little
today.
scheme is that we literally
This is a
cannot
door.
find
Kick
what
it
it
open
is.
and come
I know
in.
exactly
Frances McDormand was the
His
winner of
scheme
the
is
Oscar for Best
taking players
Actress
that
in
are
a
already
leading role, wanting
being
to
paid
share
by
some of the
agents.
winning love.
If I may be so honored to have all the female nominees in every category stand with me in this room tonight. The actors, Meryl, if you do it, everybody else will. Come on.
Best actor Gary Oldman, who won for his role of Winston Churchill in
saying, "Yeah,
Darkest
you
Hour,
come
had
for- you
words
come
of
for,
thanks
you know, a year,
for his 99-year-old mother.
I say to my mother, thank you for...
Sorry, I was looking at something from LAFC started yesterday.
Put
so
the kettle on.
Look at some stuff from that.
I'm bringing Oscar.
Allison Janney recognized for her role in I, Tonya with a win for Best Supporting Actress.
I did it all by myself. Okay, nothing further from the truth. Thank you to the Academy.
And while it didn't win the award for Best
10 seconds.
Rousey, If This Is Me drew a standing
Oh
ovation.
boy, no one cares about the Oscars.
That's
didn't watch it?
entertainment. Sue
No,
Grossman,
I did.
NBC News Radio.
I watched MLS started this weekend. Not MLS.
Who won the Man City Chelsea?
Is Dunc and Holder on Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Welcome back to the show. Interesting NFL free agency tidbit. Of course, last week we were talking about how the Jets will be releasing Muhammad Wilkerson. Of course, when he's right, a potent pass rusher, but things have not been right for him the past couple of years in New York. His first free agent visit according to Ian Rappaport, will be with the Packers.
Interesting.
And that is an interesting move for a team who you figure will be right in the thick of the playoffs, and probably someone, if the Saints are in the thick of the playoffs, someone they're going to be contending with next year.
That's my early pick to win the Super Bowl next year.
Who, the Saints?
The Packers.
Oh, not the Saints.
No, I just feel like Green Bay, all the adversity they've been through the last few years, they've had a lot. And they've changed their defense coordinator, which I think was important. They got a new GM. I just think that's going to be the impetus. There's going to be a lot of hungry people in that organization, including Aaron Rodgers, who's had some tough luck lately. I like their shot. They're going to be playing, probably a third-place schedule?
Yes, because the Vikings were first, the Lions were second. So there'll be a third-place schedule, and that's – you look at last year, Saints were a third-place schedule. The Vikings played a third-place schedule. The Eagles played a last-place schedule, and they were able to move pretty deep into the playoffs. But you know what?
That third-place schedule this past year was tough because you had the Rams, the Saints.
Well, the Rams played a third-place schedule.
Yeah, and the Vikings were all third-place teams. Well, how'd that work out?
They ended up being good. Hey, there you go. Ended up losing my hair. Ended up losing all my damn hair for it.
Damn hair.
Exactly.
It's still sitting around here somewhere, I believe.
The bag, seriously, the bag of hair is still in our studio. The fact that you kept it.
You can throw it away at any point in time.
We're moving.
You can just
we're taking that with us.
No, we're not taking that with us. That's going to get lost. It's going to get lost in transit.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Lost in transit.
You're going to steal it and try to grow a little Larry.
I would never, ever try to do that. We are struggling with one.
I know your game.
What about Kurt Coleman? Do we like that pick?
I'm not sure.
Not pick, that acquisition.
They added Kurt Coleman. Look, we were talking about how the Saints were interested in him last week. They won his services because there were a few teams after him. So he was in Indianapolis, visited with the Saints, and they signed him. We already knew Kenny Vaccaro wasn't coming back. We've said it for months. Kenny Vaccaro's now saying it publicly. And now, of course, the Kurt Coleman signed veteran safety from the Panthers. Saints added him 3-year deal. Looks like the deal, according to reports, maxing out at $18 million. So I don't know if it's actually $18 million less. Maybe he's got to trigger some big-time incentives. But he's 29. And in Josh's story, Josh Katchency's story over the weekend, he certainly pointed out where he got burnt on an 80-yard touchdown by Ted Ginn.
That was the one we were trying to think of.
That's literally when I saw the story, I was like, that's what Jeff was talking about.
It was in the playoffs, and we were looking in the regular season, but it was the playoff game right off the bat, right? Wasn't it early in the first quarter or something like that? Or am I thinking the second quarter maybe?
I think it was second quarter.
Late in the first quarter. 80-yard touchdown pass on 2nd and 10. And, but, I mean, come on. Players get beat. It's the NFL.
Right, exactly. That's just what we remember. But, no, the Saints, once again, oddly enough, going back to Carolina and plucking their free agents. Plucked Ted Ginn, they plucked A.J. Klein, and now they're taking Kurt Coleman. And obviously they know the player. I mean, they've studied him for years because he's played as a starter with Carolina. I'm just curious to see what this means for the defense. Are they going to still play a lot of 3 safety defense? Are they going to maybe have Kurt Coleman and Von Bell fight it out for the starting job, and maybe they actually have a nickel corner as opposed to what they did last year with Kenny Vaccaro playing a lot in coverage? That's what I'm most curious about. I'm fine with the signing. I just don't know what they're going to look like as far as formationally on defense.
But, boy, I tell you what, they were excited about it. I heard in Indianapolis, Sean Payton, when they inked that deal, called Kurt Coleman, sent him a video basically saying, hey, let's do this, very, very passionate, excited about getting Kurt Coleman on. It was a big deal for the Saints internally to get this guy on board. And by getting him on board before free agency, there's some benefits to that. It's not quite like a regular free agent signing. It won't count against them when, say the Saints lose Senio Calamete and Kenny Vaccaro, and they don't sign anybody else, they would probably be on board for some compensatory picks a year from now. And this wouldn't count against them by getting him on board.
Jeff, you can't be serious, right? They're going to sign 73 free agents like they do every offseason, and they will never get a compensatory pick.
I know.
Ever, ever, ever. At this rate, they have to have the fewest in the NFL since the system came to light. I know they were always near the bottom. and this was a couple years ago, but they're going to go out and sign somebody else. There's no question about it.
I think they've got to. I think
Yes,
they almost have. If they want to get a left defensive end, I almost think they have to make a trade for somebody if there's one on the market. I just don't feel like there's that many free agents out there. It's such a mediocre class for free agency, and the draft that doesn't shape up that well. That's why I slotted in. Can we talk about my mock real quick?
Why don't we do it next segment?
Okay.
Let's
A little tease.
because it goes along with the NFL Combine.
I like
we got a lot to talk about there. But, yeah, why don't we do that? All right, let's take a break right here on the show. And when we get back, we'll talk about Jeff's latest first Saints mock draft. I'll actually have one coming out on Wednesday. And I don't know who I have yet. I don't know who I have yet. I think I have an idea, but I'm not totally sold on who I'm going to put with that first pick. So we'll see. But, yeah, we'll talk about some local products, doing some big things at the Combine, certainly helping their stock. So we'll talk about that. Coming up next, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app, Dunc and Holder. Did Arden Key run?
Your forecast on Sports
I would think he
1280,
did.
New Orleans.
That would be something that
is brought to you by
he would
Stand
shine.
Up to Cancer.
From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz. Today, temperatures in the upper 70s. Should be a mostly dry day with clouds on the increase. And then tonight, a good chance of rain moves in through early on Tuesday morning. Cold front moves on. On Tuesday, high of 63. Overnight lows in the 40s both north and south. Wednesday, only in the upper 50s for daytime highs. Going to be sunny and cool. 38 north, 45 south. And Thursday, temperature at about 61. So we're finally getting back to a little below normal on the temperatures, so don't put away the winter gear yet. From the Fox 8 Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Bruce Katz with your Weather Authority forecast.
I'm Tony Goldwyn. 20 years ago, when my mom had lung cancer, she didn't have many choices. But today, you do. If you've been diagnosed with lung cancer, please visit standuptocancer.org/lung cancer to learn more.
You want to do another 2 hours?
Yeah, you want to say we can make this 4 hours real quick and just do YouTube all day.
$38. Check out the exotic mix of animals from around the globe. Don't miss the
We can just do it like that.
It's like
or the mysterious white alligators. Go to Fox Sports, AM1280.com. Keyword deals.
You're in luck all this month during Aaron's Lucky Days. Get started leasing to own furniture, electronics, or appliances and get 6 months same as cash. Plus, you can save big on select products like living rooms, a JVC 55-inch smart TV bundle, a Samsung laundry pair, an HP desktop, and more. With no credit needed and free delivery and setup. Come to a participating store or visit Aaron's.com and get 6 months same as cash during Aaron's Lucky Days. Transaction advertised as a rental purchase agreement. Some restrictions apply. See store for details.
Chili's wants to know, when was the last time you had a great lunch?
When was the last time you had a great lunch?
Oh, and we're singing too.
We go way back, baby, back with our singing.
Yeah, we do, but lunch is our thing too.
We've got 10 lunches for just $7.
Burgers, quesadillas, just $7 for lunch.
Just $7 for 10 awesome lunches.
It's even better when you say it that way.
It's pretty much the same thing, but I flipped it. Chili's is back, baby, back, baby, back.
With lunch for $7.
Take Chili's lunch to go, baby, go, baby, go.
Available at participating restaurants only. Prices may vary in Hawaii. Not available in Alaska and Canada.
Former Central Florida linebacker Shaquem Griffin gaining lots of new fans at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indy. Griffin, who only has one hand due to a birth defect, ran a 4.3 40-yard dash Sunday. It's the fastest time by a linebacker in more than a decade. Kobe Bryant is now an Oscar winner for his animated short film, Dear Basketball. The Lakers great accepted his Academy Award last night. College Hoops March Madness ramps up. Teams starting to punch tickets to the NCAA tournament. Michigan Wolverines
that's a plus.
tournament.
I think
Alexander straight season beating Purdue 75-66 in the title game. Kevin Harvick champion at the Pennzoil 400 at Las Vegas Motor Speedway for his second straight Cup Series win. Harvick on staying hungry.
We have to figure out how to motivate everybody to keep pushing forward, to not sit idle.
Well done.
And become complacent.
He's got it through. That's impressive.
Playoff hole to win the WGC.
People on YouTube are going to see just like
Mexico City.
I'm going to put red wine all over my shirt again. There was so much red wine on my shirt.
Our insiders are talking your teams. Sports 1280, New Orleans.
Mock draft season time here at NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. One Jeffrey Duncan plays leadoff, posted this morning. And Jeff, you have a guy who we kind of joked. I think his name lends him to be a frat boy at Ole Miss. Very frat boyish.
Leighton Vander Esch. I'd never heard of this guy until like a week or two ago, and Mike Mayock is smitten with Leighton Vander Esch, and he admits it. Mike Mayock, of course, NFL draft analyst for NFL Network, has uncovered this outside linebacker from Boise State, and he's now being projected around right about where the Saints draft, into the first round. And look, you know me, I don't like taking linebackers.
I was going to bring that up, of course.
But this guy's a little different. I mean, he's a big linebacker. The Saints don't have anybody quite like this on their roster. He's a freakish athlete, kind of an overachiever guy that's built himself into a first-round draft pick, dominated at Boise State, and I think would slot right into the starting lineup in their linebacker core with A.J. Klein at middle linebacker. He would start at strong side linebacker with Alex Anzalone, probably the weak side linebacker.
DJ, NOLA East.
I'm just wondering, your penchant for bagging on linebackers, you basically think they're like the long snapper or something, or like a holder.
It's not that bad.
You don't need to take them. But do you take your first round pick with a strong side linebacker, given how little the strong side linebacker plays in this defense? You go to nickel, they're out the game.
Well, the only reason I slot him at strong side linebacker is because they already have A.J. Klein at middle. He would probably be a middle linebacker most teams. But this guy is going to be every down player, and the thing I like about him is his versatility. I mean, he could, I think, slide up to a rush-in spot in passing situations and be a pass rusher. So I think he stays on the field. He's that athletic, and he's just got a lot of the intangibles. When you hear Jeff Ireland and Sean Payton talk about what they look for in draft prospects, this guy's got all those intangibles. He's a incredible, game prep guy. He's a leader. He's a captain of the team. All those things. I just think there's going to be a low bust factor. He may not be the next Clay Matthews Jr. or something like that, but I think he's going to be a solid NFL player for a long time. Actually, a lot of people have him slotted to the Pittsburgh Steelers right after the Saints pick, but I think he might be the best player on the board at that point at 27, and I just don't see a lot of defensive end type pass rushers at that spot at 27. So, yeah, I think they take the best player available, and it might be him.
All right, let's hit the phone lines. 504-260-1280 is the number to get involved. Let's head out to NOLA East, talk with our buddy DJ. Hey, DJ, thanks for calling Dunc and Holder. What you got?
Hey, Larry. Look, I was calling in when y'all started talking about the linebacker. Who is that Jeff was talking about?
Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State.
Ah, okay. Well, look, I had another question about a linebacker that worked out. You know, they were saying how great the guy looked. Was the guy that has the handicap. They said he ran the fastest time as a linebacker and all. Can y'all shed some light on who this guy is and what type of handicap that he has? Because they were talking about how great the guy looked, and I just never got who they were talking about. So anyway, could you expound upon who that is, and I'll hang up and listen.
You got it, DJ. And
Shaquem Griffin from Central Florida was born with a birth defect. I think is it his left hand? He does not have a left hand.
Yeah, his left hand.
But it hasn't stopped him. I mean, he's been an incredible player at Central Florida, team captain, really shining.
I think
at
he was the American Defensive Player of the Year.
He was.
Yes.
The American
So it's legitimate. There's no. It's you don't want to say, oh, it's a great story. No, he's a legitimate NFL prospect, and he put on a prosthetic on his left hand, held it, and did 20 reps of 225, and it was a cool moment to see. But look, you could tell that some team is going to draft him. I would say probably day 2. I think he could be maybe a 3rd-round pick. I think that's what people are slating him as.
Well, maybe a special teams kind of wizard, one of those guys.
I don't know. He's a tackler, I could tell you.
Yeah.
So
I've seen, and as crazy as it is, quiet as kept, I've actually seen him play in person. It was very quick story. So me and my wife went to Houston. I have a really good friend who works at the University of Houston. So we just wanted to come in, see a game, hang out, and they were playing Central Florida. Now this is when Central Florida was I think it was 2 years ago. So it was really, really neat. So obviously, Shaquem with his hand, obviously he was on his way to becoming what he is now. But the coolest thing about that day was that there was a cheerleader who was in a UCF. She was maybe, I'd say around 8, 9, 10 maybe. She was in a UCF cheerleading outfit. She also had one hand. She was in, and the story eventually ended up coming out that I think she was a local, I think she was from the Houston the Houston area in Texas, and saw his story about him overcoming the fact that with only one hand, he's able to play college football at a pretty high level. And so heard about the story, they got connected, and they actually met that day at the game, and like he talked to her, and it was just really nice. And it just literally showed you, obviously, that this kid who could easily be worried about what could he do to play in the NFL, what can he do to be a great player, is clearly inspiring others, and he should be. I mean, yesterday he ran the fastest 40 for a linebacker in more than a decade.
4.38 for a linebacker.
You telling me
That's
this kid
flying.
can't?
That's flying.
Well,
That's
but the issue is he's not very big. I mean, for a linebacker, I think he measured 6 foot 227. That's kind of light in the pants to be playing every down at linebacker in the NFL. People will run right at him. Now, this guy's overcome adversity his whole life, and I'm not. Who am I to say he's not going to make it? But I think that's why he's being projected more as a special teams wizard as opposed to an every down linebacker.
Look, some team's going to take a look at him. There's no doubt about it.
No doubt.
And
remember
the measurables themselves, and then you add the production for a Central Florida team that went undefeated last year, and he was the best player on their defense. He's going to get drafted somewhere. There's no question.
Peach Bowl defensive MVP, All Bowl team honors by ESPN, AFCA Good Works team, 2017 All Conference first team in the American. Started 13 games linebacker. He had 74 tackles and 13 tackles for loss and 7 sacks.
Older twin brother Shaquille is a cornerback for the Seahawks, was drafted in the 3rd round last year by the Seahawks. And just a little detail on what his condition was. He was born with amniotic band syndrome, which deformed his left hand and led to amputation at age 4 of his left hand. Now, this is not unprecedented. It is for the NFL, I think. But if you remember Jim Abbott, former baseball player, Jim Abbott played with a similar defect and was a great pitcher for a long time in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So, look, you could overcome this thing, and, you know, we'd certainly still be talking about him even if he didn't have the lack of a left hand, because he just ran one of the fastest times as a linebacker. So
and put up 20 reps with a prosthetic.
His skill set speaks for itself without the hand. And look, an easy kid to root for. Seems like everything you've heard about him, he does everything the right way, plays hard, this, that, the other. So easy kid to root for. Now, Jeff, who are some of the other guys you had in your mock draft? I don't want to give away the whole thing, but which of your other picks really kind of sticks to you, saying this would really be a good fit for the Saints?
Well, the guy I really like, in addition to Van Der Esch, but the guy I really like, I had slotted at 3rd round tight end, Mike Gesicki from Penn State. He just seems like he's going to be a star in the NFL. He was a big-time recruit, dominated at Penn State. I think left as the leading receiver in the history of Penn State. I mean, think of all the great players that have come through there. He's a great workout player, but also a leader. Just one of those smart, tough guys. Got overshadowed, obviously, by Saquon Barkley at Penn State, but this is the kind of guy that the Saints are missing right now in their offense. He's another Jimmy Graham type, stretch the field at tight end, can run those seam routes like we've seen in the past. I just think he would be a perfect fit to be the tight end of the future, while grooming him behind, say, Kobe Fleener and Josh Hill. Those guys are all, their contracts are all getting near completion with the Saints. I think Fleener is basically has 2 more years on his deal, but basically they could move on from him next year and save money. And I think Josh Hill and Human, your guy Human, are both only under contract 1 more season. This is their last year coming up. So they need a young tight end. And this guy is, if you read about Mike Gesicki, he's going to be a solid, maybe above average, maybe a Pro Bowl kind of tight end, I think, for many years.
I know he had a good workout over the weekend. They were singing his praises during the combine workouts. And one guy we did not see work out was Dallas Goedert. So I'm curious to see. I think he had an injury, and so he didn't do any of the on-field workouts. So I'm curious to see some things from him. But
yeah, Gesicki ran a 4.54. That's hauling butt at 250 pounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of the other local products, as far as at the combine, we saw DJ Chark do a tremendous service for himself as far as improving his stock. Ever since the Senior Bowl, he's really gone up. And remember when we're talking, referring to, say, Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network and NFL.com, saying how he was on no one's real radar before the Senior Bowl. Senior Bowl's he's helped himself. Combine, he's helped himself. I'm sure at LSU Pro Day he's going to help himself, and he could be. And referring back to Daniel Jeremiah, what he says, he thinks he could be a top 50 pick. And as this wide receiver class, it's not totally, as far as depth is concerned, it's not a ton of guys at wide receiver. So Chark, interesting with return skills. When he hangs on to the football, I think that's part of a problem. Sometimes he drops it, but just saying. Once he does that.
I don't see what you're putting down there, Larry.
once he falls onto the football, Ted Ginn, I guess, drops some too. But hey, you look at it, and I think he's going to be jumping as far as you'll probably be seeing him second round and maybe top of the second round if he keeps improving his stock.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about it. And right now is when guys start moving up and down. Players haven't even had their pro days yet. This combine is going to improve some stock, and it's going to obviously hurt some stock. What were we talking about earlier? Orlando Brown, the tackle from Oklahoma. Man, I think he cost himself a lot of money.
He basically ran about as slow as molasses. He couldn't bench press anything, and he was consensus maybe top 2 or 3 linemen in the draft, and now his stock is taking a dip. But 40 times today, we're talking about Dante Jackson. He did not break the record, but he ran one of the fastest, if not the fastest, for a cornerback. I think it was a 4.34?
4.32.
Something like that. He ran a 4.3. Who also ran a 4.3? Tulane cornerback Perry Nickerson. I keep singing his praises. I keep saying it. I think he's going to be a steal for someone. He might show up in my mock on Wednesday. Maybe.
Little tease. I think you're going to have trouble like I did sliding that first-round pick because so much is unknown right now. The Saints are waiting down at the bottom of the first round, and I really believe this. I think I can go on record saying this. Bold prediction. The Saints are not going to use all 8 of their picks. I think they're going to make a move in this draft. That 8 guys aren't going to make this roster. I mean, this team, if you look at the depth chart, because they've drafted so well the last few years, there's not that many open spots, especially we don't even know what they're going to do in free agency. I think this is a year where they move up, go grab somebody, whether it's round 1 or not. Maybe they move up from round 3 and get in the second round. But they've got the luxury now, I think, to be very aggressive.
Yeah, I would agree there. And we've seen it in years past where you thought they didn't have too many holes to fill, and they moved up and went and got Brandon Cooks. They had one hole they thought they had to fill. That was in 2014. But also in that same draft, I felt like they were going into that season thinking they didn't have too many holes, and they drafted as if they felt like they didn't have too many holes, and it bit them. I thought they drafted more as far as, these guys can be backups, and it bit them, and they're just starting to recover from that draft.
Well, yeah, one of the things, going back to my mock, that it kind of occurred to me while I was putting it together over the weekend, I think tackle is a sneaky important need for this team, because if Zach Street does retire, you've got Ryan Ramczyk, of course, at right tackle, but Taron Armstead has been injury-prone the last few years, and suddenly you lose Kelamente maybe in free agency, who can also slide in there to play tackle. They'll need a third tackle. I mean, Bryce Harris, we all know, he's always there, but don't you think that's a spot that they're going to have to take a tackle somewhere in the draft?
I think it is. I'd agree. Yeah, I think that's a spot that they have to keep their eye open. All right, let's take a final break on the show and give us a call with the keyword we mentioned in the first segment. In hour number 2, you could pick up a pair of Pelicans tickets Friday night at home against the Wizards. So 504-260-1280 is the number. You give Dave a call. You correctly say the keyword, and you will get a pair of tickets. So we'll get a winner in the break, give them a shout out, and have one more segment here on the show today. So sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube page if you missed any of the show. So come on back here, Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Dunc and Holder.
Yes, she does. She wants us to get very, very violently injured.
Did you get this? She texted you all about this?
No, she tweeted at it. She tweeted all. We don't have a space.
She was texting me.
We literally do not have a 40-yard straight space.
I told her we don't have 40-yard straight space.
No,
I told her I don't have an ACL in either knee either.
That's also true.
Like I could run straight ahead. I don't run
Save more. Yeah, exactly. It's like we don't have a 40-yard straight stretch in here anyway. I don't have the shoes. These are not the shoes we try to do that. Yeah, it sounds very much like I don't want to do it.
They saved me.
Oh yeah, I usually don't do this, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Puts finding love into perspective.
I can turn it over that there mountain.
And you could save $700.
There
Plot is the Uncle Rico of Dunc and Holder.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Liberty Mutual Insurance Company, Equal Housing Insurance.
Chili's wants to know, when was the last time you had a great lunch?
When was the last time you had a great lunch?
Oh, and we're singing too.
We go way back, baby, back with our singing.
Yeah, we do, but lunch is our thing too.
We've got 10 lunches for just $7.
Burgers, quesadillas.
Yeah, I know.
Just
That's
$7
yeah.
for lunch.
And I know who did it. I know who did it. So I was like,
It's even better when you
all
say
right.
it that way.
It's pretty much the same thing.
I told her I'll do it.
Chili's is
I'm
back,
going to run
baby,
about
back, baby,
75%.
back.
It's lunch for $7.
Oh, take Chili's lunch to go, baby, go, baby, go.
Available
I
at
told her
participating
Clyde's
restaurants only.
wimping out.
Price may vary in Hawaii. Not available in Alaska and Canada.
You're in luck all this month during Aaron's Lucky Days. Get started leasing to own furniture, electronics, or appliances,
we're gonna do
and get
this.
6 months
Do it
same
out
as
on,
cash.
like,
Plus, you
the
can save
stadium or
big
something.
on select
Yeah, of course.
products
Let's go do it, Yeoman.
a JVC 55-inch smart TV bundle, a
I've
Samsung
been
laundry
filmed
pair,
with,
an HP
racing
desktop, and more, with no credit needed and free delivery and setup. Come to
I remember, yeah.
Oh, really?
Aaron's.com
Mike Triplett and
get
Bradley.
6
Bradley
months
was
same
actually
as cash
surprisingly
during
fast.
Aaron's Lucky Days.
Transaction
Bradley's like
is a rental purchase
surprisingly
agreement. Some
athletic.
restrictions apply. See store for details.
Sometimes
City of Mandeville
we do it up
presents
in-
Mandeville Live Spring Concert
We do it up
Series.
in
Spring Concert
Greenbrier?
Series features 6
The
early
Millsaps.
evening concerts at the Mandeville Trailhead in historic
I remember
Old
getting Bradley out there and he
Series
like
is
kicked like a
scheduled from
40-yard
March
field goal and he
16th
would have made it from like
through May
45 yards
artists
easy.
like
Nice.
I was like, where'd this
Freddie
come
King
from?
and Amanda Shaw. Gates open at 6. Concerts start at 6:30.
Just bail
Food
out
and
in line.
beverage will be available for purchase. For more information and to see the lineup, go to
that voice, that smooth voice.
cityofmandeville.com for the Mandeville Live Spring Concert Series.
Yeah, how come nobody suggested
Dramatic
Dave
temperature
DeCorbier as
changes
the
may lead to
replacement
more
for Jim
heart
Henderson?
attacks.
Because people who have sense know that.
Absolutely.
Because people who have sense know that wouldn't be a viable option.
Brought on by global
Clyde
warming.
trying to ruin everybody's hopes
I'm
and dreams.
telling you, man.
Clyde's a
You're
hater.
You're just like a big poo-poo train.
The study found that
That's the best, really?
changes cause
Somebody ate a
stress
big bowl
that
of Krabby
contribute
Flakes this
to
morning.
I actually didn't have any breakfast this morning, so that's probably why I'm this way.
Oh, Mr. Cranky Butt.
on the
I should have had that. I should have brought that banana.
New research suggests
he's
that
hangry.
adult onset diabetes
All right, Blanchard, a guy named Blanchard won.
Blanchard, I got you. Okay.
Is he related to Leighton
with
Vander
different
Esch?
genetic profiles.
I doubt it.
different
Blanchard
risk
Vander
markers.
Esch.
His
That's
frat
what
brother.
Scandinavian researchers have found. Findings they
What's
say
the guy's
could
name
bring
again?
the promise of
Blanchard?
personalized treatment for
Yes.
diabetes.
That is it, Blanchard.
Blanchard, okay.
I told her you were wimping out, Clyde, and
NBC
Carolyn said,
News
"What if
Radio.
Clyde is the lady who holds up the scars at the start like in
Subway
Greece?"
restaurants have 5. That's 1 of 5 system subs, plus chips and a 21-ounce fountain drink for $4.99.
That's a pretty good one.
Limited time
I said that's a
only.
perfect roll.
Restaurants.
Perfect roll
I'll
for
take the
us.
rest of the day off. I don't care. I don't care.
Dunc and Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
Jeff's feeling the groove here. Also, Blanchard's feeling the groove. Won the pair of Pelicans tickets. Congratulations to you, sir. Enjoy the game. Maybe they'll be, up to trying to win 11 in a row by the time they play the Wizards. They got 2 more road games. They play tomorrow night at the Clippers, and then they play Sacramento, I would assume, on
Sacktown.
Wednesday, and then they come home Friday to host the Wizards. So, our coworker, Carolyn Fox.
Oh my God.
Who reveled a little too much when she cut my hair. Now she wants us three, a la Roger Goodell. All of a sudden, this is going viral. She wants us to run the 40. Who would win? among us three, you know who would win? Me.
I think Larry would win.
I'd win. Clyde's not even engaging in this conversation.
Nope, not engaging.
Why not?
Okay.
I thought you were a top of the backboard guy, right? Remember that?
I don't know. Understand how we're talking about used to be and currently is. How much of that part is lost on you too.
So I think we
used
need
to be able to do it, now not do it.
Inform our listeners on what this bold proclamation you made the other day.
It's not a bold proclamation; it's fact. I don't understand how that also part of the
Clyde
seepage.
said he can touch the top of the square on the backboard.
Used to be able to.
Photos or video, or it's not real. Isn't that what the kids say? Isn't that what the kids say on social media? Photos or a picture, or it's not real.
Pixar didn't happen.
That's it.
Okay.
What the kids say.
Pixar didn't happen. So get on the hype train, Larry.
I'm on the hype train. I
need to get some of my folks from back home to like tweet some stuff from the Daily Review, the paper in Morgan City. The Daily Review, not the whatever Gazette you.
They have a newspaper in Morgan City?
Why do you? Never mind. I'm not even with you today.
Jeff is totally just poking
I'm not even
the bear.
with you today.
Did they deliver that by pirogue? That's how they deliver it.
He's poking the bear.
Yeah, he is. So
out in the bayou, the pirogue comes up and throws the paper out.
No, it is not like in Blue Chips when you have to take an airboat through the swamp to find Shaquille O'Neal and you're going to Algiers.
Exactly. You're going to Algiers.
You're going to Algiers. Nick Nolte has to get in an airboat to try to find Shaquille O'Neal playing in a playground. No, you don't need an airboat to get to Algiers.
Maybe Morgan City you do.
No, you don't. You don't. I mean, and as our esteemed environmental reporters would tell you, Morgan City is one of the only areas that's actually not having land loss or actually having land gain because of all the sediment coming through the Atchafalaya.
There's Clyde. There you go.
Clyde always brings it. Well, not always.
I always
often
brings it. I bring it, and I'm brought it.
And he's not. But I'm calling you out on this.
You can call me out. I have people. Like I just gotta get my people to come through.
When I do,
you'll feel silly.
But does anyone want to see us try to be
no,
athletic?
No, absolutely not. This is not what we came here for.
Haven't I embarrassed myself enough athletically on video? I do remember there was video of us running the 100-yard dash. Myself. Our buddy Bradley Handwerger, Mike Triplett. I know Sharif Ishak has done it. We've done it in the Superdome. We've done it at Millsaps in training camp. We've done it at the Greenbrier. And there was a controversy of who won, me or Tripp. And there's video evidence. I still think I win, and it's been disputed for years.
I would be nonsense. Up for like a 10-yard dash.
You would be.
That's not really a dash.
It's not really a dash. That's
forward.
Really just,
I'd do that.
Hey, let me try to move my feet as fast as possible for like 3 seconds.
But I don't. I've told you all this. I don't have an ACL in either knee, so while I can run straight ahead, it's a little shaky when you start sprinting.
Well,
which is amazing how you get around.
We're not doing the cone drill.
It's credit to you.
It's just a straight run.
I'm going to do it. I'm willing to do it, but I'm not going to sprint all out.
Well, then you're not going to win the race.
I know.
The point of a race is it's a competition.
Well, I mean, it's not the first time that Jeff will have been considered a loser at some point. So it's
I'm like a distance horse. I'm like the Kentucky Derby. I'm going long. I'm not a sprinter.
So you're telling me you can give us barely 2 minutes?
I used to be sprinter. I used to be very fast.
Oh, here we go with the horses again.
I'm just telling you right now, if I had ACLs, it would be no contest.
I have no desire to do this today.
I'd still win.
I have no desire to do this.
I would definitely win.
No one wants to see us run. I certainly don't want to see myself run. So we're not going to do this. It's fine.
Until we do it.
No. Unlike you, I'm not, as easily persuaded by peer pressure.
You're not a prop. You don't want to be a pinata like me?
No. I have no desire. I get made fun of enough on this platform on a daily basis about this over here. Oh, you get a P-Rod to get your mail?
Nice impression. What kind of impression was that?
That's like the impressions of whenever I just do an impression of like a woman. I'm like, well,
literally that.
Yeah, it's my impressions are so bad, but
that's like a half Paul Maneri trying to be an old woman.
1 minute.
Exactly.
All right. So real quick though, your mock runs when?
Wednesday.
Okay. I'm
Wednesday
looking forward
morning.
to that.
I'm looking forward to making some picks. Should I make a trade and they can trade for Malcolm Butler? Can I do that?
Yeah,
I can't this
trades.
year. He's an unrestricted free agent.
But hey, thanks to Ron Higgins too for joining the show.
Absolutely,
yeah, great
Ron
story.
Higgins,
go read
great
it.
stuff. Yeah, if you missed any of the show, sports1280.com, NOLA.com, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and Clyde's
30 seconds.
Excellent recaps.
And this will not be a part of it.
Oh, Clyde's athletic prowess will not be part of it.
He had a bowl of Krabby Flakes today.
See y'all Tuesday.
The horse is booing you. Eric Asher coming up next, so we'll be back. Talk to you guys tomorrow. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Duncan Holder.
Oh, yo.
Thanks, Dave.
Hi, Clyde. I'm glad you're having a great day.
I'm unplugging my stuff now so I can't hear you.
Aww.
Oh.
All right, guys. Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye, Dave. Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Yep. That's my line. Yep.
Guess what? With Boost, adding a line with unlimited gigs to my data plan has never been easier. So that means everyone gets a line. My son gets a line. My dad gets a line. My yoga instructor gets a line.